Blizzard King. You're now rocking with Uncle D. Blizzard King. You're now rocking with Uncle D. Hit subscribe.
Subscribe to my guy, Uncle D. Tell him Big Bad sent you.
Spurling. I'm an attorney here in Houston, Texas, an advocate for black men, largely because I am a black man. I'm a black father, I have black sons. Hey man, I do what I do.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day. If you can hear me, hit the number 1 button. Let me know that you can hear me clearly. If you can hear me, hit the number 1 button and let me know that you can hear me. Big shout out to my man, Mr. 43TX. Always good to see the fellas in here who've been here for a long, long time. My name is Dennis Spurling, also known as the Blizzard King because I deliver the cold, hard truth. And, you know, as a term of endearment, they sometimes call me Uncle D. But nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to tonight's broadcast. I want to thank you all for your time and attention to this message that I'm going to deliver. And I hope you learned something for the most part. That's my goal, is to teach you something or perhaps remind you of something that you forgot. And in this regard, I will have served the same purpose. Nevertheless, let's start with the simple truth. Crime in America is down, but people don't feel like it's down. Okay? The FBI tells us, shout out to all the folks from New York. I appreciate this coffee cup. Nevertheless, like I was saying, man, the FBI tells us that in 2024, violent crime fell nearly 5% from the year before, and property crime dropped more than 8%. And the Council on Criminal Justice confirms the trend in city after city. Homicides, robberies, assaults, most of them are lower than they were even before the pandemic. And yet the Gallup polling from as recent as October 2024 found that 64% of Americans said crime was up. Pew Research shows this perception gap is true. And it's been with us for decades. And you can see why. Because statistics don't erase fear. They don't erase headlines. They don't erase tragedies like the one that we just saw in Charlotte, North Carolina on August 22nd, when that young refugee girl, and her name is, I believe it's pronounced Irina Zarutska. I'm going to actually try to pull up some video footage of, well, I'm not going to pull up video footage of the incident that everyone is complaining about because I don't want to see it. But nevertheless, this young woman was a 23-year-old refugee who fled war zone, Ukraine, and came to America. And she was working at a nearby pizza restaurant. And as she entered onto the bus, she took a seat in front of a man named DeCarlos Brown Jr., a young black man, and unbeknownst to her, that was the last time she would ever be alive. And this is her sitting here with the little cap on. She was stabbed to death on that light rail train. And this man, DeCarlos Brown Jr., had 14 prior arrests. 14 prior arrests. His own mother said that he should have never been free. Okay? He should have never been free to even commit this crime. And this case is already racially, well, it's being politicized, but it's also being racially used, is polarizing. Okay? Now, it definitely has racial undertones because you're talking about the death of a young white woman, a beautiful young woman, 23 years old, killed by a black man with a long criminal history. So it fits all the stereotypes. And that brings us to Washington, D.C. Okay. For the first time in recent memory, I should say, the president has invoked something called the Home Rule Act, which allows him to temporarily federalize the National Guard for the purposes of public safety. Or actually, he's federalized Washington, D.C., and he's brought in the National Guard. And Mayor Muriel Bowser, she then extended coordination indefinitely with the federal law enforcement. This includes the FBI, this includes the marshals, this includes the DEA, includes the ATF, Secret Service, U.S. Capitol Police. Numbers don't lie, okay? And the truth is, whether you like it or not, the carjackings in Washington, D.C., which were getting truly out of hand, are down 53% compared to 2023. And in July of this year, there were only 16 carjackings citywide, and that's the lowest in decades. Now, President Trump says this model should be extended to other cities, including Chicago, Baltimore, New Orleans. And while he talks about crime, his administration is also carrying out these large-scale immigration crackdowns, okay, and what they call Operation Midway Blitz in Illinois, and mass deportations framed around criminal non-citizens. But we all know it's not just the non-citizens, it's not just the criminal non-citizens he's going after. He's going after all of these folks who are in this country illegally. And many of you all agree with that. And the reason I know is because I have polled you here night in and night out. So here's the thing. So the picture in 2025 is complicated. On paper, crime is down, but in people's hearts, they don't feel safe. And they see what happened to that young white woman who was, unalived in Charlotte. They see viral videos of carjackings and assaults and robberies. They see leaders sending the National Guard. And so they believed, often with good reason, that the danger is growing. And that's the stage we're on tonight. A nation where the numbers tell one story, but the people feel another. And both of these realities are matter of fact and important. Now, that being the case, I want to announce this on behalf of all the decent, hardworking Black Americans. I think I can speak for those of us who acquired some degree of peace of mind and wealth. We hate these YNs, okay? There's nothing glorious about the YN lifestyle, and we do our best to get away from these YNs. Now, there are those who are compassionate, but we do not want to be around these YNs, okay? Now, that being the case, I'm going to go ahead and let them speak for themselves. Now, if you listen to the pundits on these left-leaning media outlets, they will say things like, oh, black people are outraged. No, no, no. We are happy. We are largely happy. And this right here is some interviews. You guys check this out. And I'm going to do my very best. Let me get up close. I'm going to do my very best not to talk over these videos, because I know you all complain about when I talk over these videos. You just know, never go to the movies with me, because I will talk through the movie and you will not enjoy yourself. Nevertheless, we're going to go ahead and let this go, and I'm going to do my best. And remember, if you learn something, I should earn something. If you didn't learn anything, that's fine. But if you learn something, I should earn something. And that's going to be my goal. Again, let's go ahead and get this work. Y'all hit the number 1 button if you can hear it clearly.
Northwest and southeast, from like the, I guess, the higher rate of I guess socioeconomic areas, and then maybe where people were struggling. Right. I think really actually where people are struggling.
What, like, if you could give me like a how about like a shopping area that I could look up, that where I could go, there's people walking around that I could walk up to on the street, maybe like a city center area where there's like people just walking that I could talk to?
I'd say Pennsylvania Avenue, southeast.
What would the cross street be?
That would be it would be more like Potomac Avenue neighborhood, the Potomac Avenue neighborhood.
Okay. Let me put that just in case that, you know, thank you for this information. Because I like
where, sure.
Hold on. Potomac, what was it?
Potomac Avenue.
Avenue area. Right, because back when I was in New York and I was covering a lot of things, for me, it was very easy to find neighborhoods because I was from there. And I always like to talk to the real people. Like when you go into New York City, it's really hard. Everybody's coming and going, and they're more wealthy and they have different opinions. I used to go to the Bronx, to Harlem, and people's opinions are wildly different than you would expect.
Okay.
So, well, you know, my view is that there are people that have actually moved out of the district, but also those people too have a great view. They have an understanding. Those that actually were born here, raised here, and then eventually became adults and moved into the suburbs, they understand that they want safety in the city as well. When we come down to work.
Are you all enjoying me not interrupting the broadcast? I want to just make sure that you all, I'm doing my best to be quiet. And I want to make sure you all enjoy me not interrupting this woman when she speaks. If you enjoy me not talking over this, then just go ahead and hit the number 1 button. Hallelujah.
Or to shop or to have dinner. We want to be able to feel comfortable. I mean, who wouldn't want safety?
Exactly.
Yes, safety. See, I didn't say anything. I kept quiet the whole time.
Let's bring in Maryland Governor Wes Moore to the program. Good morning, Governor. Thanks so much for joining the program.
Wes Moore.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, Governor, I'm so glad you decided to come on the program. I know you care about your community, and I care about mine as well. And I'm hoping that we can get to some resolutions on how we can come together to make this happen. I want to bring you to one of your cities in your state, and you're a neighbor to Washington, D.C., and we know the actions that the president is taking right now. When you look at the numbers right now, the most dangerous cities list, Baltimore is on number 4 of that. And when it comes to the murders, it's number 3. Now, I know you have been surging resources to Baltimore, investing in the police there, but you don't like the actions that the president is taking right now. Why?
Fair use.
Well, you know, when I came in, I said that the number 1 priority that we had as administration was to make sure that our communities were safe. You know, before I became governor, for the 8 years before I became the governor, Baltimore City went 8 straight years of 300 plus homicides. The year before I became the governor, Baltimore City averaged about a homicide a day. And I said, I refuse to be a governor who's going to spend my time offering eulogies and giving thoughts and prayers, that we actually need to have resources and coordination that was going to help to fundamentally address the problem. As people of my state have learned, you know, I don't come from a political.
Now, is this exciting? Is this exciting just listening to them speak without me speaking? Because this is what you all have told me. There are people telling me they're tired of me talking over the videos. Now, I like to troll these people. I like to yell at the screen like you would, okay, and say the things that you would say, but I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna let the governor
background. My background is I'm a soldier. And so what we did was we made historic investments in local law enforcement, that we invested over $50 million in the Baltimore City Police Department alone, that we made historic investments in technologies and predictive analytics, and saying if someone commits a violent crime, particularly with a firearm, I want them in handcuffs in 24 hours. And saying that we made historic investments in our community groups, working with the mayor, working with our county executives, working with the community groups and our violence intervention and violence interruption groups to making sure we can stop crime before it happens and making sure we don't have this retaliatory cycle of violence. And while I know that we still have more work to do, I also know this, is that despite the fact that the year before I became the governor, Baltimore City, again, had a historic streak in violence, that now that the last time the homicide rate was this low in Baltimore City, I was not born yet. So we're making real progress where Maryland is now amongst the fastest dropping states in this country on violent crime. There's ways you can do this, and you have to be able to make sure you're using the right tool to get to the right result.
You know, Mr. Governor, you're right, y'all have made progress, but there's still some issues there. And this is a resident, and this is what they said in the Baltimore Sun, a 77-year-old woman from Curtis.
So again, this is me just letting it play. Are you learning what they're saying? You guys don't want me to interrupt, so I'm not going to interrupt, but I'm going to let them keep talking. Just as to y'all tell me to go ahead and start trolling these people and telling them what you want to say. I'm gonna let them keep talking till the chat room lets me know what you want me to do. But go ahead.
Bay, who asked to remain anonymous due to threat levels she's received from drug dealers on her block, compared the morning drug traffic to a fast food drive-thru. When a real estate agent assessed her property about a month ago and a half, she said that the agent told her he can't sell this house with that, referring to the 10 or 12 people involved in the drug market, loitering across the street. I'm going to get hurt one day. I know I am, she said. But the mayor responded this way, Governor.
I'm sure you read the article in the Baltimore Sun yesterday talking about how so many Baltimore residents don't recognize their neighborhoods anymore. What do you say to those residents of Baltimore who may think that citing falling crime statistics glosses over some of the harsher day-to-day realities and needs that they have to their lives in Baltimore, need for things to change even further in terms of just regular drug trafficking?
Yeah, so we're only having that discussion because the president is having that discussion. And this, I want to be very clear. I didn't read the Baltimore Sun article. I don't read it because they're a part of the president's propaganda machine.
So, Mr. Governor, I know people go back and forth and the politics and Donald Trump and all this, but this is what the locals are saying. This is not some partisan thing.
Right.
Well, I mean, my heart breaks for that woman in Curtis Bay. And it breaks for anyone who does not feel safe in their own neighborhoods and in their own communities anywhere in the state of Maryland. And I think the people of the state of Maryland know and have seen through our actions that the number one priority that we have is making sure that people can feel safe in their own neighborhoods.
Do you all feel safe in Baltimore? Everybody in Baltimore, are my people from BMO here? Do you feel safe? Because the governor says that his number one priority is making you all feel safe. Now, I want you all to notice, see how I didn't just jump in and yell at him on the screen? I patiently found a breaking point and I pushed the pause button. Is this what you all like? Because see, they want to be able to hear everything these people are saying. And I want y'all to hear, even though the clips are available on the internet, if you came, you just want to hear the clips, you can Google it and find it. If you want to hear me talk about what they're saying, then, you know, I thought you wouldn't mind me talking over. Nevertheless, but go ahead.
In their own communities and in their own skin, that we're making sure that people who commit crimes, that they are held accountable for the crimes that they commit, but also that we're improving better systems that are making sure that they are also accountable to actually focusing on rehabilitation and helping people get back into the community with a real pathway for long-term success. And so whether it's a person in Curtis Bay or whether
brother look a little bit like a turtle. He talk out the side of his mouth like that, but the other dude looking like that. But
it's a person in Catonsville. They know that their governor is prioritizing their safety.
Pardon my interruption, Governor, but the people of D.C.
You see, he interrupted. Shout out to Urban Eagle. Thank you for the $5 super sticker. Let's see.
Feel the same way. The people of Philly feel the same way. I'm just curious why you've been so critical of the administration trying to solve this problem. Is it the process that you don't like? Because it looks like they're doing the same thing that you're doing, which is surging resources to the city.
What it look like me.
It's because I'm proud to be the 63rd governor of the.
No, it's because you don't have an answer for that man, and that's why you just segued into some standard statement that you had prepared to say, sir, Mr. Turtlehead Governor, talking like that out the side of your mouth, sir. That's what it is. You just trying not to like the president because he's a Republican. And we don't give a damn, all right? We just want our streets to be safe, sir. Nobody wants to come visit Baltimore because it's dangerous up there. Shout out to everybody in B. Moore.
State of Maryland, and I'm honored to be the Commander-in-Chief of the Maryland National Guard.
You didn't answer the question.
I stand with the remarkable men and women who have raised their hand, these citizen soldiers.
What are you talking about? You didn't answer the question. The people are afraid. They don't feel the way you say they should feel, sir. And the hell with all you people that keep telling me not to talk over this foolishness. I'm going to say something, and I'm going to say it because it needs to be said. Keep going.
Who frankly are trained to fight and win our nation's wars. The people who, in times of emergency and in times of crisis,
shout out to Saginaw Bay,
that I have the unique authority and the unique ability to mobilize them, and where I have done so as the governor of the state of Maryland, whether it is historic floods that we've seen in Western Maryland, or whether it's the fact that I still currently, right now, have men in.
Sir, Maryland is that big, okay? It's that big. You can put some of them troops down there in Baltimore, okay, and still deal with the flood in Western Maryland, sir. Cut it out.
Women who are deployed overseas doing operations. This is something that I take very seriously, particularly as someone who's worn the uniform, particularly as someone who's had to say goodbye to my family, particularly as someone who has had to trust the judgment of the commander-in-chief, knowing that the decision that they made was one.
We don't trust your judgment, sir.
That had not just the best interests of the national security in mind, but the best interests of me and my family. And so all I'm saying is this, is if we want to have a serious conversation about violent crime,
you on TV, they're trying to have a serious conversation with you, sir. Okay? They want to have a serious conversation about the violent crime in Baltimore that you seem to be ignoring. And now you got what's called a wild hair up your ass. Oh, excuse my language, family friendly, because Donald Trump says, if you don't do something about it, I'm going to do something about it, sir.
We can have a serious conversation about violent crime, and I would love to be able to share the multitude of things that we are doing in the state of Maryland, where we are surging support for local law enforcement, surging support for predictive analytics and technologies, surging supports for community groups, and allowing more supports for the mayor and the county executive and the people.
Donald Trump cleaned up D.C. in like 3.5 days, sir. Obviously, it's not enough. Let's keep
people on the ground doing the work. And we were able to receive some really encouraging and historic results in Baltimore and around the state of Maryland. And I never once had to mobilize the National Guard in order to accomplish those.
Gone down, but it's not gone away, sir. How about that? It's not gone away. So what's the point?
Feats.
Governor, it's a different war now. There's more brothers dying here in these cities than overseas. So
what's your response?
Isn't it fair to have them there? And it's Democrats that agree with this measure. Don't take my word for it. The local cop there, the police chief, agrees with this. The mayor of the city agrees with this.
And
it's because people that look like me and you are dying.
That's true.
No one needs
no response. No response. And absolutely no response. Where's the response? When we start talking about black people dying at the hands of other black people, nobody has a response. I've been telling y'all for years, we got a cultural problem. That's the problem. We have a cultural problem because our culture is one that needs to be dealt with. And that's something totally different. But in the meantime, folks want to feel safe being able to walk down the street, enjoy their communities, enjoy their community parks. You understand what I'm saying? Enjoy their life.
To explain to me the pain that is taking place in so many communities. No one needs to explain to me the pain that is taking place in so many communities, urban, rural, and suburban, who are being besieged by this issue of gun violence. Who's being besieged?
It's not gun violence, sir. It would be knives, bats, sticks, whatever. Fist violence is not just gun violence, sir. Cut it out. Stop shifting the blame.
Besieged by this issue of chronically and generationally not feeling safe inside of your neighborhoods. And it's the reason that we have made it our top priority to make sure that people are feeling safe. But I can tell you right now, what people want more than anything in those communities is they don't want performative, they want performance. Right?
Well, the carjackings are down in D.C. Can you do some of that, sir? How about do what they did in D.C.? Do some of that.
They're not looking for someone to walk around with military fatigues and a big gun. They're looking for someone who actually understands how to make people feel safe and how.
No, they want to be safe. They don't want to just. If they were safe, they would feel safe, sir. That's what you need to understand.
To make people actually safe in their communities. Our National Guards are not trained for this.
I believe that they might not be trained for it, but they seem to be doing a good job in D.C., sir. And are we saying that the police are trained for it? Because they are doing a disturbingly horrible job in most of the cities around America. Are you saying that the police are trained for that? Have you not seen what the police have been doing to folk in the past, I don't know, 50, 100 years? You saying the police are better trained? I would disagree.
I'm very specific about my role as Commander-in-Chief of the Maryland National Guard, and we know the missions that they are trained for, and municipal policing is not one of them.
So I'll tell you
and so
this.
If we want to be serious about making people safe, let's actually do the things that make people safe.
I'm well over time, Governor. I'll do two things. I would ask you, this is going to be only for 30 days until Congress gets involved. So let's see the results. If the results are true, then we stay with it. But I would also ask you, can I come to Baltimore with you? I want to visit the community with you. I've been there many times. We'll walk the block together and we'll figure out all the programs that you have suggested. I would love to meet all of them. But I also want to see the metrics as well. I want the impact to be there, and I hope you'll take me up on that offer.
I would be honored to take you up on that offer. We are walking our streets all over the state all the time, and I also know that when you look at the cost of this National Guard deployment, we also have to understand there's a real cost to it, not just a financial cost, but also an opportunity cost, because when we have real tragedies and real disasters that our National Guard has to respond to, they're not going to be able to because they are currently doing municipal policing operations, and that's not right.
I got to go, Governor, but there's a disaster happening right now, and we got to focus on the crisis right now. All right, brother. I'll see you soon. Governor, I appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you so much.
You got it.
This for all the black women who hit my page that think somebody's hating on Jasmine Crockett. Let me explain to you my problem with Jasmine Crockett.
All right, so this is where we start talking to regular people about how they really feel. Now, the reason I brought this up is because you're going to hear this young woman speak before she began to try to appeal to the ratchet part of our culture. And I want you to just see the difference. Keep in mind, Jasmine Crockett comes from an upscale, wealthy family, and she does not talk the way you all have been seeing her talk lately. And it has a lot to do with the culture. But let's listen.
Listen to this video. This is right before she got into Congress. Listen to how she speak and how she carry herself. Listen.
You're a state representative, and now you are running for Congress.
First of all, it's good to see you in the new year. You know, no one could have told me that when I went down to Austin, now it looks like a little bit over a year ago, that I would be running for Congress. Just
not just polite and well spoken she is, sitting there with her legs crossed and her just look at that. That's
not what my plan was. But what I've always decided is that I would step up when there was a need. But when she called me and said, I think it's time for me to retire, and you're the one that I believe should take my seat, I really was kind of caught off guard. I didn't anticipate that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I just got to Austin and I had to beat 5 people to get here. I don't know about this. It's a huge responsibility.
She went from that. You see how proper
Wretched
English she's
Desmond
speaking,
Crockett. Yes,
how
we
well
do.
she's carrying herself.
Yes, we
She
do.
went from that to this.
Thank you so much, Morgan, because we in these hot ass Texas streets, honey.
Just
Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
This disrespectful. This is
And
this
the
is
only
primary
thing
issue
hot
that we
about him
have.
is that he is a hot ass mess, honey.
If this is now, I want y'all to understand
yes.
something. If this is what our educated elite and our leadership are doing, imagine what the YNs are doing. Imagine this is where they get their cues from.
Oh my goodness. Listen, I know that I have arrived.
We're gonna move on past that. Let's get on down to the nitty gritty. I wanna ease on down and let the people begin to speak. Y'all hit the number 1 button. And let me know if you can hear these folks clearly as they commence to speak. Go ahead.
Housing. He say the waiting list is long, it is creating fraud, and it's a waste of spending. So let me talk about this. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. Not that they are getting rid of Section 8 and
Section 8. They're getting rid of Section 8.
public housing.
I want you to keep in mind, and I'm going to talk about this broad. This is going to be talked about. Getting rid of Section 8. Okay. There's a reason why we had Section 8, and originally it served the purpose along with all the other welfare programs.
What they want to do, and it has not been finalized, is proposed, is that they want to put a cap that you can only stay on Section 8 for 2 years. And it does not, I repeat, does not affect disabled or elderly. It's Miss Cassie Levitt. You want to know her. She is over public affairs for HUD. She said, able bodies should take your ass to work. She ain't said it in that tone, but that's what she mean. She said that if you are able bodied, you should be able to work. And you should not be on public assistance. Hey, it's happening behind closed doors.
It's happening.
According to her data, she says it's data to support that, to back it up, and that's where they want to go. They want to keep people off of public housing and Section 8, and for them to go back to work and find their own way. But it will open up the waiting list for people who have been on the waiting list of trying to get on public housing. This is just where we are, and it's happening. Hey, don't kill the messenger. I'm just telling you things and policies that are happening behind closed doors. But let's have a discussion and tell me your thoughts. Talk to you later.
Getting rid of it. They're getting rid of it. Keep listening. Let's talk. Keep on talking.
Yo, one of the reasons Donald Trump is able to do what he's doing in D.C. with the military takeover there is because the majority of white people are okay with it. And I'm not only talking about MAGA Republicans. The majority of white people are okay with it or indifferent to it. Not all. Gotta say that on the internet because people go crazy, but most. And let me tell you why.
I would argue, brother, that there's a lot of black people who are okay with it also. And when they say okay, he's talking about using the National Guard to clean up some of these ghetto hellholes that we have going on. I'm absolutely certain that if the National Guard can do something about the crime in the black communities, at least slow it down for a month, we'll be okay with it. The only people that support these YNs are the baby mamas that gave birth to them and the YNs themselves. The rest of us hardworking black people, we don't like you. We're tired of you, and we've been tired of you for a long time. Let's keep listening.
The over-policing of black people is as American as apple pie, as they say. Because the whole idea of the police is to over-police black people.
The police so you saying the police were invented to police black people? Is that what you're saying, sir? I'm just asking. So the whole idea of the police is to police black people. So in Scotland Yard, which is in London or in England, where they have police, you saying there's not really a lot of black people there per se? Is that their job? Because they've been around for centuries. Is that what you're saying? What about in Japan? They have police there. There are no police, there are no black people really in Japan. They want you out of there. Matter of fact, when you show up. So what are you talking about? And see, this is the problem that I have with a lot of these black people who, and you don't know where this man is from. You don't know what his heritage is. A lot of these immigrants especially, they don't even like America. Okay, and they're just here to cause trouble. The main folk that's quick to call you a sellout or something like that, oftentimes they don't even like America, and they need to go back to the country that they came from. I just want you to understand something. Let's keep listening.
That's their main function, no matter what else you think. That's why they were created as slave catchers, and that's why they're there now, to protect white people against black people. And as a matter of fact,
so when we talk about the gangs of New York, back around the 1800s, there weren't really any black people there in New York committing crimes, but they had criminals who were cutting up the Irish, the immigrants. So you saying, is that what you're saying, sir? I just need to understand, all you folk in the chat room who are trying to convince me that the police in the United States was solely invented to police black people. Where is your historical data? Are you familiar with, we have always had police in every society that has existed. There's always been police. What are you all talking about? I'm just saying, if we're going to speak honestly, let's have an honest conversation. Let's keep going.
that's all through law enforcement, right? You can't be elected to a district attorney job or a sheriff job without running on one single platform, tough on crime. And crime means black people. It doesn't matter.
Crime means black people. So even in the states where there are no black people, is that where the crime? I'm just helping because the last I checked, there was more white men in prison than there are black men. I'm not talking about percentages and such. I'm talking about the actual bodies in prison. There are more white men in prison than black men. So what exactly are you talking about? And here's another one to hit you in the craw. More white men get unalived by the police every year than black men. So are we going to have a factual conversation? Or are you just going to go over that same old rhetoric? Because see, I'm in law enforcement. I'm an actual attorney. I've actually studied these things. I speak to the people who deal with this. So I just want to have these. Why is it that we always have this knee-jerk reaction where every time there's some law enforcement, you always got these black folks, especially these liberals, who pop up and say, oh, no. But they the same one that complain when their property values get dropped. They're the same ones that complain when bad things happen. Who's the first person they call? Police when they have a problem. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. I want y'all to listen.
Whether the statistics are true or not, that's what it means. And that's who gets elected. I'm not just talking about
sounds like you're just making it
Southern or all white cities. You go to the most liberal city in America, and your DA and your sheriff ran on tough on crime. Every single one.
And most of
white
those
America
cities
wants that. They want a barrier between them and black people. And that barrier, the protectors of that barrier, are law enforcement. And so we have a society that's built around honoring.
Now, what black people are you talking about? Again, I hate when people begin to speak about the Black American experience, specifically the foundational Black American experience, and they don't know anything about Black American history. Because see, black people have been in this country before most of these Europeans showed up. In addition to that, there have been black people in cities like New York and Chicago, and all these cities in the Midwest. And we had Detroit, we had very successful enclaves of black people in places like Los Angeles before slavery ended. And matter of fact, it was a black woman that helped found Los Angeles. She owned the land that LA sits on. These were very successful black people. And largely, and I'm talking about places like Detroit, we were already integrated, if you will. Black people were acculturated. It wasn't until after the first migration that came up after the end of slavery that you had an influx of black people who came in from the South And then the white folks said, no, those black people are not like the black people that we have here. You're going to have to deal with them yourself. I'm just saying. And then there was a second migration that happened in the 1950s. And they said, once again, we need to separate ourselves from these black folk. I'm just pointing out. So what exactly are we talking about?
And worshiping and praising these men in blue and women in blue, these men and women in blue, right? They praise them. And so you have Donald Trump put that whole group inside of D.C. and recognizing that there are white people in D.C. It's not an all-black city. And there are white people who protest that. Again, there are white people who protest that. But overall, white people are okay with over-policing, whether it's the military, National Guard, or whomever, as long as it's used against black people. And because of the immigration nonsense used against
immigration nonsense. Okay, I at this point, I want to know what island in Caribbean country that this brother is from. That and it is important to understand who is speaking. I want to know what island. And anytime you're against illegal immigrants coming to this country outright, that lets me know a lot about where you're coming from. Okay, let's just keep listening.
Latino communities as well, right? They're okay with that. And so even though you have the overreach of the federal government and the military on the streets of D.C., like you have the military on the streets of L.A., as long as those military people, personnel are not on the streets of these all-white communities, white people are like, that's all right. They're okay with it. Look, you could draw a line from people who remember when Obama was president, and you might remember the Jade Helm military exercises. Jade, one word, helm.
Okay, brother, I done had about enough of all I can take from you. Let's let some more people speak on this issue. So let's slide up out of here because he just, this is a lot of babble at this point.
That they don't have the same weaponry. They know that. However, you got to understand the generation that we're dealing with. They're not looking at that as advice. They're looking at that as a challenge. And while many of you...
Now, to put this conversation in context, this young man is explaining how upon hearing that the National Guard was coming to Chicago, a lot of the YNs in Chicago, the gang members, decided to use social media and express how they are not afraid of the United States military, nor are they afraid of the National Guard. And then some National Guardmen decided to speak and say some things in response. And so this young brother, who's obviously a member of the United States Armed Forces, is addressing the military personnel who responded to the National Guard.
You think you have a one-up, or you're, really putting YNs in their place. You're really not. And what you're doing is you're issuing a challenge to them. You got to remember, as service members, we are governed by the UCMJ. Guess what YNs are governed by?
United States, UCMJ, United States Military Justice Act.
The streets. They don't have the same rules that we have. Please stop feeling like y'all flexing up on these Chicago YNs, bro. Because it's not cool. And it's not the flex that y'all think it is. Oh, y'all think y'all got 5.56s and all of these rounds and y'all can't shoot and What I'm saying is the D1 crash outs in the hood, they don't care nothing about critical thinking. All they see is a mission.
Now, according to the mayor's office,
war on DC. President Donald Trump versus the Washington criminals. Let's get into it. What happened? A MAGA supporter, he got beat up on Capitol Hill. And Donald Trump is trying to say.
That's one of the people who worked, they call him Big Balls. He was the one who originally was working with Elon Musk. He apparently got jumped by some other youngsters. And that was about a month and a half or so ago. Keep listening.
The criminals and the homeless people beat them up. And they're called the Washington criminals. I just made that up. Right? It's a bunch of red flags. So Donald Trump is sending the National Guard to protect DC and to move the homeless people out. Where they gonna go, I don't know. But he said, you gotta go. Here is what I believe. No DC criminal or any homeless person beat this guy up. I truly don't believe he was beat up at all. I think this is a ploy and a plot.
So the other thing about our people is oftentimes when they don't have any intelligent arguments to respond, they will begin to call names, they'll lash out, and we are definitely known for coming up with these conspiracy theorists. I think black folk low-key keep some of the oddest sort of conspiracy theorists going on. So she just said, I don't believe the man was beat up. It was a hoax. That's basically what she's saying. Let's keep listening.
Hey, Brody.
So this is the DC. This is the police in action.
Drop your jump. Hey, drop your jump. Look, drop your jump, bro. Just drop your jump. Drop your jump. Show him.
Bill, don't hurt yourself, Bill. All right. What's up?
What's all this for?
How you feeling, man?
What we know?
I feel well. How are you?
Ain't nothing going on right here.
Better than ever, man. Yeah.
Oh, you got your ski mask on.
Nah, don't break it. Open the gate. Don't break it. Open the gate. Don't break it. Oh, they picked the jump. Stupid ass. That's all they wanted to do.
I got my guy. I ain't doing that. I'm just recording for my safety. That's all we doing. We don't want no problem. Look, we don't want no problem.
He is wood truck. Oh, he got his hand on it. Look, you don't want no smoke, Brody. Oh, wood truck.
When you get hemmed up and knocked on the ground, now you want to play victim. I'm just saying.
Yes, he did. You see the
bike right there. Put in handcuffs and hogtied and thrown in the back of the damn patrol car. Now, now you're a victim, right? Now you want the rest of us to come out there and pay for your bail and your fees. I'm just saying, I'm just pointing.
Bike right there, Bill. You see the bike, Bill? Come on. Come on, bro. Come on, bro.
Doing the best I can. Like, doing the best I can, not to talk.
Oh my God, I'm having anxiety. I want to bust your fucking head. Don't bust my door. Y'all gonna pay for that? That's the motherfucking key. Damn.
What's going on? Let's move on. We see that.
Roving mobs of wild youth.
Let's keep listening.
Why shouldn't the federal government take in? The problem here is that the numbers for crime are going down. If there had been some outrageous spike, it would be more understandable. At this moment in time, though, with crime at a 30-year low, according to the federal government, why would the federal government send in the National Guard? It's not making sense to some people. If it's making sense to you, let me know in the comment section. I want to hear from folks, people who agree with the move, people who don't agree with the move. Just tell me what you think.
Okay.
I'm not mad at the president.
Okay.
Hear me out.
Talk to me,
I
baby.
live in Washington, D.C. I'm born and raised in D.C. Moved around, but I always found my way back home.
Okay.
And we need more policing, guys.
Oh.
Do we need a national guard?
So let me get this straight. So all of you folk who call black people who say, yeah, we support this crackdown, the actual people from this DC support the National Guard. Are they sellouts too? Are they sellouts also? Do they not know what they're talking about? They're the ones that live in those communities of black people in Chocolate City, as we used to call it. So are they sellouts also? I'm just asking.
Guard, I don't know. I won't say we have to bring in the army, whatever, right? But we need more. These kids are running rampant.
These kids.
Just the other week, I walk outside, neighborhood full of police cars. Got the tape, police tape everything off because someone's being chased by the police and threw their gun in my neighbor's yard. Okay, one of us could have gotten hurt. He could have freaked out, started shooting, police shooting at him, and it was in a residential neighborhood. We could have gotten hurt. Yesterday, I'm sitting in my car. Well, when I pull on my block, I'm looking for parking, and I see this woman. She's walking in the middle of the street. She looks, a little deranged. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to judge. I see her pull on the car door, so I'm thinking, oh, maybe she's getting ready to get
You hear what this sister's saying? Somebody had a gun. It was obviously a young black man had a gun, threw the gun in the bushes, running away from the police. And we're just not supposed to do anything about that. I'm just saying there's something we can do about it, and we're not supposed to do anything about it. Let's keep listening.
And I was actually going to wait for her because I was going to take her parking space. But then I saw her walk off. I'm like, okay, whatever. Think nothing of it. Park my car, sit in the car, getting ready to go out. I hear my car door opening. Look up, and it's the homeless woman that I saw. And I went off. We have a homelessness problem in this city. Yes, they need more resources. Absolutely. Rounding them up and just throwing them in jail or wherever you're going to take them is not going to fix the problem. We need more resources for the homeless. But that doesn't deflect from the fact that it's a problem and something needs to happen. Crime is out of this world in D.C. And I know people are posting videos like, this is the D.C. I live in. Where's the crime? You're in Georgetown. You're in Columbia. You're in Columbia Heights, which it goes down to Columbia Heights too, depending on where you are. You're in the Petworth area. You're not in the areas where the majority of us live. So stop it. And I don't even live in the worst part of D.C. I live in Noma. And it still goes down here. So I am not mad at the president. Send it in. We need more help. We need more policing. This has to end, guys. Seriously.
This is the new Washington, D.C. Before I left, there was a homeless encampment. It's no longer there. It's been cleaned up. You walk over to Union Station, where you used to see all the homeless people strung out on drugs and crying out for help. It's no longer there. On my streets where I am, there's no national.
I'm listening to the people from D.C. saying it's cleaned up now. The homeless people are gone. The gangsters are gone. The criminal activity is shut down. Who has a problem with this? Who in the chat room has a problem with it? If you have a problem with this, type P in the chat room. If you don't have a problem with this, type D, like don't, in the chat room. If you got a problem with the results that have happened in D.C., type P. You have a problem. If you don't, type D. I'd like to take an informal poll.
Guard. There's no DEA around the Capitol because there's a security apparatus already in place. And so, listen, it's quiet, but there's a whole new spirit in Washington, D.C. Really law and order. Things that I saw a week and a half ago, you no longer see and feel now. And what about the meeting yesterday between the European leaders and Zelensky? They met. They came together. Trump said he would guarantee some security measures if.
I see a whole bunch of D's in the chat room. It seems like the D's are winning. So for all you YNs and you YN supporters, my channel is 90-something%, over 90% Black American. And what I'm looking at in this informal poll is Black people support this, irrespective of what you see going on liberal media channels. Black people, real Black people who have to deal with this urban inner city crime are supportive of this. Let's be listening.
They signed this agreement and Putin decides to go back on his word. And speaking of Putin, is Putin the smartest man in the room, whether he's there or not? He has a lot of experience. Do you trust him? You think?
Let's keep going. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about that.
Gosh, it's all clean.
Uh-oh, here come another one. Let's see. Try to slide this over a little bit. Boom.
Police cars. Full of police cars.
Give Trump this peace agreement, but he doesn't want to cease fire. I know the bloody media will tell you very little came out of the meetings yesterday. Don't believe.
Try to get this thing queued up a little better. Hold on a minute. Boom.
On the cleanup, while I only see white liberals continuing to protest. Play the clip.
So President Trump has not even had control over Washington, D.C. for 30 days. And I have on my For You page video after video showing D.C., specifically Union Station, and how clean and safe it is. People don't understand how big of a deal it is, specifically for Union Station, because there is a bridge, whether it's the bypass, it's either 95, 395, or 495, where the homeless, as well as people who are abusing drugs, as well as the drug dealers, they just squat. It's clean. It's all gone. This was also an underpass bridge where people would throw their wastes. So you would drive on the main road, and to the left and right of you is nothing but trash. It's all clean. People don't understand how big of a deal this is, because the Capitol is right there within like a 6 or 7 minute walk. And then also local residents, they did not like walking there, whether in the daytime or the evening. Some people would take taxis just to avoid.
I mean, the only people that don't want this for the black community are the people that want to continue to tear it down. Anybody calling you or saying there's something wrong with you because you want a clean black community that's crime free, something's wrong with them. I just want y'all to understand that. Okay,
any type of encounters. And people have been talking about cleaning this up for a decade. And you mean to tell me President Trump hasn't even had control for 30 days and he cleaned it all up?
Democrats will never give Trump credit for anything, which is why I say that they are some of the most disingenuous people, and why I believe that those protesters are bought and paid for shills, not homegrown. Trump talks the talk and he walks the walk. And in comparison to all the other presidents, which are an embarrassment, he by far is one of the greatest presidents we've had. Like I said, ask the residents how they feel, not those paid for shills. Remember, folks, for more mean tweet commentary, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I put out more mean tweet commentary. Hit me up on Facebook. It's official Craig Long. Instagram is official Craig Long 45. Facebook is Craig Long 45. X is Craig Long. It's Craig Long 45 everywhere, man. Y'all know what time it is.
Okay, all right. Let's keep going. Keep listening.
You assaulted him. Disengage. Right. Disengage with what? So you think you can threaten police officer, right? Hey, you think that's okay, right? You were standing right there with your buddy, right? No, he never. I was telling you the whole time. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He wasn't standing right there. So what are you talking about then? I've been taking away from the last time I seen you. I've been threatening you in front of his supervisor. I changed lives right here, literally. Really? Supervisor, you okay with that? Your supervisor standing right in front of that officer. You actually threatening in front of his supervisor, though. I got people jobs on the officer. You come around here and start stuff. Right. We got data for y'all start. We got data to prove it, too. What are you talking about? You come out here, you told one individual, if I catch you, if I catch you slipping, you see all this? What is that? What? You see all this? What? Eating out there, right? No. Eating up. Y'all knew I was out here yesterday when I said stop sitting on the sidewalk and stop blocking passage. No, I didn't start nothing. I came out here and I told you yesterday.
Stop blocking passage. This man is just telling you, get off the damn sidewalk and stop blocking the passage. And you want to argue with him about that?
I said, do not block the sidewalk. Do not block these businesses. I told you that. Okay. I'm going to come out here every day and do the same thing.
The cop is saying, I'm going to come out here every day and tell y'all to stop blocking the walkway. Standing there interfering with people in the walk. Matter of fact, I'm going to say it like this. The problem that we got people with jobs, people with something to do, and then you have other black people who don't. You see what I'm saying? I think there's a comedian, Chris Rock, he said it best, man. You have had a war between black people and N-words, and it's been ongoing for a long time. And this right here is N-word activity. You see?
No, he didn't answer my question. Your man started talking shit the entire time. And then what? Take that back out, beat his ass. And what happened? He went running for his life. So go ahead. Keep that in your mind. Because I'm going to come out here. And he's not getting away. I'm going to be right here. No, he was talking to me about communication. No, the only thing y'all do is talk shit. And we're done. We're done. We're tired of it. It's over. You're done. You're not going to be a police officer. I'm not attacking you. I'm not attacking you. I said, hold on. Why are you doing that? They're not attacking you. It wasn't out of the blue. It's funny how it's out of the blue when you don't remember nothing else that happened. Because it was you. You initiated everything. When did I say I was going to beat his ass?
You're supposed to initiate everything. He's the police telling you to get off the sidewalk, brother. And you know, that's what he's telling you. Okay?
You were telling me doing the case when he was telling you about police officer getting out to address y'all and tell you that you can't be out here breaking the law. I told you already. Exactly. You weren't out here yesterday. You weren't out here yesterday. You do hang out here. I don't hang out here yesterday.
We tired of all this.
Every city should want that. But liberals and so-called pro-blacks are against it.
They are.
We got to wake the fuck up.
Where all the pro-blacks at? All you pro-blacks, I want y'all to come to the front of the room. I want you to hear what the brothers have to say, because I've always had a problem with these so-called pro-blacks. They as fake as a $3 bill. Most of them, your favorite YouTubers who are always talking about pro-black, they are sleeping white. You understand? I'm not just talking about a one-hitter quitter. I'm talking about they ain't dating nothing but white women. For all you ladies who support these so-called pro-blacks, and all they do is sleep white. Just keep that in mind, okay? And at some point, the truth will come out, and you'll hear about your favorite internet heroes who woof that pro-black. So anytime somebody start woofing that pro-black foolishness, I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to pull a whole card. Let's keep listening.
In urban cities across America, right, we have these cities that have, you know, murder rates that 2 and 3 and 4 and 500 murders every single year, right? Whether you're talking about Philly, Chicago, Memphis, Detroit, DC, right? And right now in DC, right? DC is a city that's a majority black city, nicknamed Chocolate City, right? Black people die there on a regular basis, right? There hasn't been a murder there in 2 weeks. And I can't find one liberal or one so-called pro-black that's happy about it, right?
Listen to what the brother said. There hasn't been an unalivement in DC for 2 weeks, and the pro-blacks have a problem with it. You got these people are basically shut down the black on black crime, and you got people in the chat room, my chat room, who are against other black people who support that, who support black people living on and being healthy and not being unalived by other black people. Just think about
same people that run around acting like they got all this love and concern for the black community. And I can't find one that's happy about the fact that there are no black people being murdered in DC right now, right? If the Trump administration said, you know what, we're going to stop our efforts, we're going to pull back the National Guard, we're just going to, you know, we're going to let DC just be DC. They would celebrate that shit. And do you know what happened? It would go right back to murder, mayhem, death, and fucking destruction. That's what would happen. And I'm of the opinion now that this is what they want. Because the idea that let
me explain something to you about some people, some black people. Under the auspices of being so-called pro-black, the truth is they just want to switch places with the white supremacists, and they want to be in charge of you. They want to tell black people what to do. If the pro-blacks were able to shut down the crime rate in the black community, it would not be a problem. But the fact that Donald Trump is doing it, or any white man for whatever, it's a power trip for them. So disregard anything these so-called pro-blacks have to say. They are not for us. They are in fact our enemy. They are simply an extension of white supremacy racism. And when you really begin to look at it, you'll recognize the only issue that they have is their ego tripping. They want to be in charge of you. They're jealous of the dominant power. They want to be in charge. I'm going to tell you this. You are your own leaders, and you dictate how you operate and live in this world. And you don't have to succumb to anybody or anybody's doctrine. I'm going to say that we'll table that for another conversation. Let's move forward.
City with the 4th highest murder rate. The murders just stopped. It's been 2 weeks. Nobody has been killed. Every city should want that.
Yeah.
But liberals and so-called pro-blacks are against it. We got to wake the fuck up, man. We got to wake up. And I said it before and I say it again. They don't give a fuck about us, man. It's not about the people. It's about the party.
Keep going, brother.
And these the same niggas that talk that, you know, coon and tap dancing for the white man shit.
But excuse the language. of the brother, but he's making a point, so we're gonna let him ride. Family friendly.
I'm the one that's happy, right? That in a city where black murder is commonplace, right? Where we got our children are running around killing each other.
Yep.
I'm happy that that's not happening, and y'all upset about it. But I'm the one that's the sellout. It's me. I'm the problem. Y'all got to come up with some new material, man. And y'all got to start getting on the right side of these issues. Some shit is just common sense.
It is.
Y'all go against
common sense.
anything Donald Trump does, even if it's beneficial for you. It's something wrong with that. Wake the fuck up, man.
Americans have been forced to put up, for far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people.
Now, I'm going to look at what Donald Trump said, because I know we got a lot of people who support Donald Trump and whatnot, but what he's going to say and what he's going to do, it is racial. It has a lot of racial undertones, but let's look at it and see it for what it is, and we'll talk about it.
Really very, very innocent people. In every place, they control radical left judges, politicians, and activists, and they've adopted a policy of catch and release for thugs and killers. In Charlotte, North Carolina, we saw the results of these policies when a 23-year-old woman who came here from Ukraine met her bloody end on a public train. And here's a picture of it. This is the picture of it.
Now he's showing this is from the White House. So he's showing the nation this poor little white girl and this big bad black man hovering over him with an arm stretched out with his presumably the knife that we've heard about. Let's keep listening.
And this is a picture of the woman, a beautiful young girl.
Before she got into Congress.
Not just a picture of the woman, Donald Trump. That's a picture of the man who committed the crime also. Okay.
And this is a picture of the woman, a beautiful young girl that.
And they got a picture of this YN who actually has mental issues and been arrested 14 times. And so this is some racial dog whistling right here. Now, again, I think we all understand that this is red meat for the racists amongst us here in the United States. But it is what it is. You see, it is what it is. And this is something we have to deal with. We understood, those of us who voted for Donald Trump, that some of y'all might not think he's a racist, but the racist thinks he's a racist, and that is sufficient. This is dog whistling. This was not necessary, but it is what it is. And this is the climate that we're dealing with right now. We're dealing in a racially charged climate. And what you need to do is be mindful of that, and don't be stupid, and don't be naive. And don't get so caught up into your Republican and conservative leaning, newfound for a lot of black people, that you forget that we are always the primary target, whether or not he's going after immigrants or whomever, Latinos or Arabs. It's black folks who are the primary target of white supremacy racism. Keep that in mind, but let's keep listening.
Never had problems in life. With a magnificent future in this country. And now she's dead. She was slaughtered by a deranged.
I mean, look at the terms he's using. Slaughtered.
Monster.
Deranged monster. Go ahead.
Who is roaming free after 14 prior arrests. We cannot allow a depraved criminal.
These are the terms he's using, but keep going.
Criminal element of violent repeat offenders to continue spreading destruction and death throughout our country. We have to respond with force and strength. We have to
respond with force and strength. I just want to remind all the white people who are listening to my page right now, you all created these YNs. They didn't have N-words in Africa, okay? They had some other stuff, but it was you all that brought them over here, us. And by the grace of God, so many of us have done well under these circumstances, but you all created these N-words. You created these savages. You are the ones that have kept black people oppressed. You broke the families apart. You tore us apart with so many different things. You kept us impoverished with your redlining and your oppressive tactics. Okay, you helped pump dope into the black communities in the 1960s and 70s and 80s. because we had come together and we had pushed this country to do what it promised that it would do, and that is give everybody freedom. And so you became so angry with that at the black success, you began to tear down our success and tear down our family. So you created this problem, and now you're having to deal with it. This is karma biting you in the butt. So that death of that young woman who was innocent, is as much your fault, white America, as it is black America. Let's not forget that, okay? Let's always put it in context. Let's keep listening.
To be vicious just like they are. It's the only thing they understand. 24 of the top 25 most dangerous cities in America are run by Democrat mayors.
That's probably incorrect.
50 people were murdered in Chicago in recent weeks, with hundreds being shot. And it's time to stop this madness. The people of our country need to insist on protection, safety, law, and order. We have proven that it can be done because we did it right here in D.C., in District of Columbia. The capital of America was a bloodthirsty, horrible, dangerous place, one of the worst. And now it's a crime-free city, and we're going to keep it that way. It can be done. It can happen fast. All we want is, please, Mr. President, we need help. Chicago needs help. Other cities needs help. We'll do what has to be done because we're going to make America.
What he's explaining is that unless the actual mayor or governor asks for the National Guard, he does not have the right to bring them in under unless there's some sort of emergency. And that that's what he's saying. And so they have to actually ask. Otherwise, you can get away with it in D.C. because they have the Home Rule Act, where D.C. can be federalized, and the president can actually take control of the police force. But you can't do that in every other city.
America safe again, and that includes our big cities. We're going to make those cities safe. Thank you.
Trump talking about he's deploying the National Guard to Chicago, and then I see some YN come on here talking about he don't want to do that. The National Guard don't want no smoke with the YNs in Chicago. We got all these gangs. And then the military dudes came on the app, and they're talking about, you don't know our military. Our military is strong. We don't care about no switches. Listen here, brother. We're not talking about the military. We're talking about the National Guard. The National Guard
this is some back and forth military jargon. He's just saying, y'all, whatever, y'all ain't ready. Let's keep going. Let's keep listening. I like this brother. I like what this black man has to say. You keep listening to him. This video is a little dated, but this is his encounter with a Chicago YN. This is a regular, hardworking black man.
Damn, what the fuck you doing with that blue on around here?
Listen, he's basically saying he's at the AutoZone or something like that. I'm going to try to get it right back to where it needs to be so we can listen to what
on the gangs of Chicago.
God, tire shredded on expressway, motherfucking window broke. Got that shit fixed. Can't see through that motherfucker. That's how I like it. Anyway, come to AutoZone to pick some shit up. So, I'm coming out the store. I'm minding my motherfucking business, right? Little young dreadhead ass nigga started walking up to me. Now, I see why white people so stereotypical of these fucking niggas.
Excuse the language, family friendly. Okay, we're doing our best, but the brothers are expressing themselves, and so we're gonna let the conversation move forward. Again, the title is Black Americans Hate YNs, and we support Trump's National Guard crime crackdown. It's just the truth. It is what it is. And there's only a select few people who actually support the thuggery and the foolishness going on in the black community and by the people doing it. Okay, keep it.
You walk up to me with some nappy ass motherfucking dreads with your pants hanging below your motherfucking ass, nigga, you suspect. Anyway, long story short, little nigga started walking up to me, so shit, fuck that shit. I conceal carry, nigga. I carry my shit all the time, so I'm already ready for him. This nigga come up to me, hey, big homie, where you from? I'm looking at this nigga. I ain't say shit. I kept walking.
What he say?
Hey, I said, where the fuck you from? Say, who the fuck you talking to, nigga?
So now you got this young man hitting up a black man, older black man, about what set he's from. You see what I'm saying? And it's really pretext so he could just try to rob him for his watch. That's what's going on.
I'm talking to you. Like, man, what the fuck you doing with that blue on around here? Say, nigga, blue? You mean my motherfucking coat I got on? So my man like, Joe, you can't be wearing no motherfucking blue around here. Nigga, what? Dude, I'm a grown-ass motherfucking man, nigga. I wish the fuck you would come at me on some color shit. So he started reaching in his little pocket and shit. When he reached in his pocket, I pulled my motherfucking thing out. He gonna bag back real quick. No.
Thing means his firearm. Shout out to Roll Pill. I'm gonna read all the super chats. We got 4 super chats. I appreciate y'all. We ain't got to the learning good. We're gonna be here for a minute. But I want to let you all hear what people are actually saying, because a lot of people assume, oh no, that's just these podcasters or these, elite. What do they call them? These boule blacks. No, these are everyday hardworking black people who are sick and tired of the thug culture. We are tired of it. And you talking to somebody who was raised around these folks at the worst of worst times in the 1980s and 90s in South Central Los Angeles. Okay, so I know what I'm talking about. All right, we are tired of them. We were tired of them then, and we're tired of them now. Let's keep listening.
No, big homie, it ain't even like that. It ain't even like that. Man, I was just playing. Nigga gonna say, oh, that's a nice watch, Joe. Yeah, that watch right there. I bet, motherfucker. No, big homie, it ain't even like that, Joe. You know how it is. No, I don't know how the fuck it is, nigga. Like but you gonna know how it is. Yeah. I'm telling y'all. Y'all got kids out here. Y'all better teach your motherfuckers some manners, because I swear to God, I knock they motherfucking shit back. I don't bother nobody. I don't fuck with nobody. I'm a family-oriented man. I stay to myself. If you fuck with me, nigga, you threaten my life, I'm gonna blow your motherfucking brains out. Y'all got kids out here. Y'all better teach their ass right from wrong, because I don't play no motherfucking games, you dig? No game.
Brother,
walk the fuck up on me with that shit. Any other nigga would have knocked your motherfucking shit back. Niggas lucky I got patience nowadays. Anyway, it's your boy Chicago's very own J Hustle. Moral of the story, parents, you got kids out here, better teach their ass right from wrong when you come into their motherfucking funeral.
I think it's a political loser to say that Washington doesn't have its problems. The numbers may be going down in some ways, but Washington, just like a lot of other major cities, has an issue with homelessness. It has an issue with people who are addicted to drugs, who are in the streets. And there have in the past been court rulings that have really tied city officials' hands in its ability to respond to the problem in an effective way.
And that who don't know, this is Mika Brzezinski, and she is on MSNBC. Her father was a very famous, I forget what Mr. Brzezinski's name was, but nevertheless, I think he was Kali. I don't know. I can't remember his title or what exactly he did, but she's a liberal and she's saying the same thing.
That's where the National Guard and the president may have more.
They got to live up there.
More sway, more power to do things about it than the city actually did. Having said that, there are many who are concerned about exactly how the president.
And when you still on that side,
no game.
Weekend morning, and you will
be listening to the old people.
I ain't getting out this road. We already know Kevin Roberts and the project named after this year has been studying our resistance and looking for any way to get under our skin. We all.
This is the more
do the right thing, because I promise.
This is the young brother who is in the Army, and he has some things to say to the YNs.
It's not, please don't think that you're gonna intimidate people that can pinpoint where you keep your weapons at, locate who your family is in a matter of half of a nanosecond, has an unlimited supply of ammo. We're speaking to an entity that have weapons that can track you down. We have homing missiles that can track you down and put a.
So this troll right here says that everybody who agrees that they want the black community to be safe are butter biscuits. I want y'all to know this is the mentality out there. I'm going to tell you now, this person has no job and they have no future, and they're probably going to be nothing worth anything in this country. This is the mentality that we're dealing with. But let's go ahead and keep
quarter of a hole in your chest before you realize it, and then you have less than 2 breaths to realize that you're dead. We're speaking on an entity that can wipe out a whole country if it so chooses to. If we didn't have the Geneva,
We don't even need the National Guard. If they would unleash the regular Americans on these thugs and criminals, we could eliminate them quicker than the National Guard would. I'm just going to tell you. The only thing to keep good folk from destroying these lowlifes is the law. We don't want to break the law. But the minute they say it's open season on these criminals and these drug dealers and these people who are destroying our community, we would eliminate them. Now, we don't typically want to do that because there's, we want to have due process and whatnot. But that is the only thing that keeps good people from destroying these lowlifes. And but here's the thing, the lowlifes know that. The lawbreakers know that. Okay, they know that. They look for the law to save them, right, from us. They expect the law to make sure they know all their rights too. Keep that in mind.
Convention and try to do things properly.
And what's really fun, like little funny things, like you ever notice?
It's not.
It's a Sunday. I shouldn't be cussing.
Oh boy.
The U.S. military. Bro, the military overtakes countries, bro. Y'all are a small portion of Chicago, bro. And y'all talk about y'all got switches. A switch is so dumb. A switch is like a waste of bullets, bro. And y'all thinking because it shoots really fast. Bro.
So we got Chicago's gangsters and thugs saying they got switches for Trump's National Guard. Let's entertain that for maybe 2 seconds, right? First off, you think they don't know what you guys got?
They know already.
Where do you think those switches came from?
I know what's so funny to me is the fact that we got people on TikTok and the people of Chicago saying that they're not scared of the National Guard. Which, okay, you may not be scared of the National Guard or whatever the case may be, but I'm going to tell y'all something. The National Guard definitely ain't scared of y'all, and the National Guard definitely don't mind bringing their ass to Chicago and shutting that whole city down. And the only reason these people saying this is because Trump said that they're going to find out what he did with D.C. and they're going to do the same thing in Chicago. And I guess the people of Chicago feeling some type of way. The dude's talking about some, oh, we got switches, we ain't scared of the National Guard, we got all this, we got all that. As if this not the U.S. military that y'all talking about. I guarantee you, them folks start bringing those tanks and bringing those grenade launchers to the streets. There is absolutely nothing that y'all people can do to the National Guard once they get to Chicago. I'm going to tell you that now. These are trained professionals that we're talking about here. These people specialize in that type of activity in the active war each and every day.
How y'all doing today? Y'all staying in that trouble? You got your ID on you, chick?
No, I live right here.
Okay, cool.
It's a cigarette. Did y'all get a call or something right here?
No, so we're doing checks, keeping everybody safe down here, right? Have you heard of the federal surge that Donald Trump's putting out?
Yep. No.
Right. You don't follow like Code 3 or anything like that people are putting up? All right, so yeah, Trump's got all.
Basically, they got boots on the ground. That's what somebody typed. Boots on the ground.
Kind of coming together 7 days and going out.
Conversation than Amanda. But I saw something there that got me thinking. Are people passing black? You know the way people passe blanc? Pass white, by the way, I'm
3 anything like that people are putting up. So recreational use as well, right? But you can legally possess up to 2 ounces. You can gift an ounce to your boy, right? So if you had 2 ounces and he said he needed a zip, you can give him a zip, but you can't smoke outside.
Okay.
Amanda Seals on Jubilee debating black conservatives. Perfect casting. Perfect conception. Obviously, they worked her nerves, but I can't think of anybody who's better suited to handle that conversation than Amanda. But I saw something there that got me thinking. Are people passing black? You know the way people passe blanc?
Yes.
Pass white, by the way, I'm black. 4 black grandparents, okay? Before anyone gets started, I'm just a light-skinned black woman from... Are people out here passing black? You remember that person that she was debating? It turns out, after some questioning, that he seemed very reluctant to answer. He's not black American.
You got a lot of people who are against what we have going on right now, who aren't even foundational black American. I just want you to keep that in mind.
He's the son of 2 African immigrants. I don't know, I forget if it was Congo or Angola.
They have no business involved in our internal politics, no business involved in even having anything to say. This is that Joy Reid complex. Nobody asks you and nobody wants your opinion, but they keep talking anyway.
Either way, it got me to thinking, oh my gosh, the way people used to passe blanc back in the day used to pass away. Are people passing black?
Major point.
Now,
move on.
But he was Republican, a stone conservative. But when he heard about me, a black man trying to do something right, without hesitation, I was right there, no problem. Brought me on in, showed me what to do. Now I'm in the schoolhouse, working in the office with the police and Mr. Drummond. And the police eventually became the sheriff of this community. But I say all that to say this. To be a black conservative, you ain't gotta hate niggas. You supposed to love your money and want to keep it, don't want to give it nobody else.
Yeah, I would not consider myself a conservative or a Democrat or a Republican at this point. I voted Democrat my whole life up until the last two elections where I voted for Donald Trump. And it's just because they've gone too far. The Democrats have gone too far. And so you don't have to be a sellout, a booty kissing black person running up behind white folk to be a conservative. We are naturally conservative people. Look at who we look. We pray conservative. We live conservative for the most part. So you know, we believe our beliefs and our morals are conservative. You know, so don't get caught up into that rhetoric. But listen to what
and you pro police.
Some people just take it too far with the shenanigans and coonery.
Which can't be anti-nigga, but for a conservative man like Jim Drummond, who did all that for the black community, he just was doing what he thought was right, standing on his beliefs, but also still being a prominent black man in our community. Had a whole bunch of children too.
Let's keep going.
Chatham, Inglewood. Get on your scooter there and do it about 7 o'clock. Okay. If you're not going to do that, mind your business.
This young lady is actually from, she's from DC, and she's given her opinion and kind of explaining that a lot of these people who are against what's going on are not, they're not even black. I'm gonna let her speak.
We don't need the National Guard here in Chicago. They have the privilege of saying that because they keep themselves in their careful bubbles of Lincoln Park, Wicker Park. They stay up in some of the northern areas and they go and frolic at the beach, playing volleyball and pickleball and tennis in these areas where it's clean. There's minimal crime. Of course you feel like we don't need the National Guard because you've never stepped foot on the actual south and west side. Elitist, progressives, and leftist white Chicagoans have the privilege of not needing the National Guard in order to feel safe in their communities. They walk out their door in the morning with their babies to go get a quick coffee and their kid on a scooter with a helmet. That's privilege. That's the same privilege that you claim you want to be a part of unpacking and getting away. It's the yuppie white women in Chicago who want to scream about Trump being fascist, yet they keep themselves carefully, safely tucked away in Lincoln Park. Come to Woodlawn. And not the cute part. No, go past 63rd. Come to Auburn Gresham. Chatham. Inglewood. Get on your scooter there. Bright. And do it about 7 o'clock. Okay. If you're not going to do that, mind your business.
Well, these are the people actually speaking.
Careful, everybody! These two fucking punks are up to no good!
This lady just came out.
Let them be.
Listen with this one. There's another sister speaking. Let's let the sister speak.
And I love it, and I respect you, sir. But you know what I want to tell you? Let them be, sir. Let them bury their kids every single day, because that's what they want. They want to fly balloons and light candles and RIP and make t-shirts every day. Let them be. Just let them be. Because those who is fighting you right now to save their children, let them bury their children. Let Ray and Craig and Pookie and Jose and Julio and Ethan and Brad, let them run that. Let them. Because see, those don't love them. They did to take, steal, rob, destroy, vandalize, and unalive their babies. And they know it. They know it. But they love them more than they love their children. So, Mr. President, and I said it, let them go fly balloons every day. They're accustomed to that. They love the criminals more than they love their freaking kids. And these black leaders they listening to, they don't even know. They don't even know. They hate black people more than the white man ever did on this land. They don't know that. Because these black people that's in Democrat Party is not American. They're not us. They hate us more than the white man. So let them go ahead. Just let them be.
Basically, what she's saying is a lot of these so-called black leaders aren't even foundational black Americans. And we're all starting to peep that out. Let's keep listening.
Let them bury their kids every day. I'm tired.
I love this shit. Ha ha. Ha ha. Would you look at this shit? This right here, this is DC Muriel Bowser, right? This is the mayor of DC, right? All the donkeys, they running around saying all this shit about Trump with the National Guards, right? Yeehaw. Listen to this.
DC Mayor Muriel Bowser announced her safer, stronger anti-crime legislation. So this morning, she went to Capitol Hill to testify before the House Oversight Committee about crime in the district and ways to reduce it.
Access to firearms is a national problem, and we need common sense gun reform. We also need this Congress to give the mayor control of the DC National Guard. We welcome your partnerships or non-public safety initiatives as well.
What did she just say? She want the National Guard? Is that what she just said? The pretty black lady with the pearls on? Didn't she just say that? Where the fuck was the outrage? Please tell me. Like, I'll wait. Where's all the Democrat donkeys at? Y'all some goddamn imbeciles. Like, the fucking cameras never lie. Like, yo, and they do this shit like it's no record of this shit. Y'all crying about Trump with the National Guard and all that, the DEA and other. But she asked for that 2 years ago to get the guns and all that under control. Y'all didn't say a word. Yeah, fuck with me. I'm surgical with this shit.
Got the ghetto gospel. Oh yeah, got the ghetto gospel.
Very family friendly.
Listen, the inner city of America needs to be dismantled. I grew up in the inner city. I sold all the dope. I committed all the crimes. I did all the same thinking. Trump is right. He needs to go across America and dismantle all of these communities. It's not about black and brown or any of that. You got these white liberals. They're the only ones who are upset that Trump is saying he's going to dismantle the inner city. And these
the brother is accurate.
Fake upper class immigrant groups are mad too, right along with these white liberals, because they don't want those groups moving into their neighborhoods. Period. It's self-preservation. So of course these fake liberals want you to sit in these ghettos and destroy yourself. Of course. Since we're talking about equality and equitable equality, not this DEI. Yes, Trump, dismantle the inner city. Chicago, Detroit, wherever you got to go, dismantle all of that. And listen,
I want y'all to understand, you got educated black people, uneducated black people, upstanding brothers, brothers who used to hang out in the streets, brothers who are former criminals. All of us are saying the same thing. We need to get these this criminal activity under control. And who is it that's against it? Who amongst us does not want to stop the killing of black people? Who still wants to live with the YNs doing all this destruction? Who are you people that feel that way? What agency do you belong to? Anybody calling anybody out of their name because they want to stop, they want to clean up our cities that we live in. Man, you are the real sellouts amongst black people. You are our true enemy. And we need to take note of everybody who is against the cleanup of these black cities. We take notes, write down a note.
Listen,
remember
I grew up
that
in
name.
these environments. I'm not no internet figure saying, listen, the youth in those environments are too far gone. You cannot direct them in any direction that is a positive, productive way, but prison, but the graveyard. That's it. And that's the hard truth. And it's not about young black boys. I'm a black American, mom black American, father black American, foundational black American. I'm telling you, I did all the same. It's not about the little black boys too. The Asian kids, the Hispanic kid. Listen, all ethnic groups in the inner city, these young kids are participating in this nonsense. And to be honest, the little black boys don't have access to any of that. It's these other ethnic groups of children giving them all of this shit and then running back to their communities. So yes, Trump, dismantle it. Black America wants Trump to dismantle the inner city. Period. And yes, I speak for black America because I am black America and I grew up in those environments. Period. That's the bottom line. Listen.
We've been seeing the governor of Illinois parading out there saying that there's nothing wrong with Chicago. It's a great place to live. There's no crime there. He doesn't need President Trump's help. Well, I think the residents of Chicago beg to differ and the statistics beg to differ. And I'll just share a few of those statistics with all of you. For 13 consecutive years, Chicago has had the most murders of any U.S. city. This is J.B. Pritzker's legacy, by the way. For 7 consecutive years, Chicago has had the highest murder rate among U.S. cities with more than 1 million people. In 2024, just last year, Chicago's murder rate per capita was 3 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 5 times higher than...
Just to put it in context, this woman is talking about the death of black men, women, and children. When they say the murder, they're talking about black people dying. Keep that in mind.
New York City. That's more than double the murder rate in Islamabad and nearly 15 times more than Delhi. Out of Chicago's 147,899 reported crimes this year, that's how many crimes have been reported in Chicago since January 1st. There have only been arrests in 16% of them. These numbers are unacceptable. There have been more illegal guns recovered in Chicago than in New York City and Los Angeles combined. The number of reported motor vehicle thefts last year was more than double the number in 2021. And Chicago has also, just like DC, come under scrutiny over discrepancies in its homicide data reporting. So as bad as these numbers are, perhaps they are even worse. And this is Governor Pritzker's legacy. He should put politics aside. He should pick up the phone and call this president, who would be more than happy to do right by law-abiding American residents in the city of Chicago, and we hope that he will. Gabe, and thanks for being here, Brandon. Gabe.
So President Trump has federalized the police department in Washington, D.C., and people are upset. He's calling it Liberation Day for Washington, D.C., and I couldn't agree more. The crime in D.C. has ran rampant. And it's about time that people can now have faith and trust in law enforcement out there and be able to walk the streets and not get hit over the head or mugged. I mean, why would anybody be upset with that? We just had a young member of Doge beat by a gang of young males. I mean, why would anybody have a problem with that? The left is calling him a dictator. They're calling him an authoritarian. A lot of names that they throw. A lot of word salads. Of course, they're calling for him to be impeached. But the people that support him is calling for more. This is what we voted for. And we're very happy that this man is making DC safe. He's making America safe. Look at the border. Have we had any other illegal border crossings since he took office? Nah. A big difference from what we've dealt with the last 4 years and who was responsible.
All right. I think the point is proven, everybody. So let's just go ahead and get down to what we need to get down to. I want you all to sit back and at this point, it's time for you all to really learn something. You know, we are hour and 39 minutes in. I've laid the foundation. You've heard all these Black voices speak. And what I like to do is put everything in historical context. And I promise you, I'm not going to miss much. Nevertheless, here's the thing. I want to talk about what was going on back in 1972. The United States had a population of 209 million people, and the incarceration rate was 93. And in other words, it was about 93 to 161 per 100,000, meaning there were fewer than 350,000 people in prison, in jails nationwide. Now, by race and gender, that translated to around 75,000 Black men. Okay, this is 1972. This is fresh out of Jim Crow. You understand? All right. On the flip side, it was 150,000 white men. Okay, so it was about 30% Black, 60% white, and there was about 25,000 women in prison. So that's about 10%. By the 1980s, the incarcerated population had doubled to 500,000. Okay, so with Black men at about 175,000, so in an 8-year time period, Black men went from being 75,000 to 175,000, which is about 35% of the population, with 55% white men, which is 275,000. And Hispanic men were about 30,000. Okay. Here's the thing. By the 1990s, the prison population had more than doubled again, and it had got up to 1.1 million. This is 450,000 Black men. So we go from 1972 to 1990, and you went from 75,000 Black men, 75,000 Black men in prison to 450,000 Black men. That's 40%. 550,000 white men in prison, 80,000 Hispanics. So half the population was white men, 450,000, 40% was Black men, 80,000 Hispanic, and 50,000 women. Now, by the time we hit 2000, I want you to keep in mind, we're talking about the mass incarceration. We're talking about the prison industrial complex in full swing. We are talking about the 1994 crime bill. And so I'm kind of laying this out for you all. So now here we go. Let's slide forward to 2000. Mass incarceration had taken a firm hold. The U.S. population was about 282 million. This is 25 years ago. And the incarceration rate was about 683 per 100,000, or about 2 million people. Specifically, 1.9 million people were behind bars. So in a nation of 282 million, 1.9 million were behind bars. If we want to do a racial breakdown, that's 800,000 Black men. Now you had 850,000 white men. So there's always been more white men in prison than Black men. 200,000 Black men, Hispanic men, and 100,000 women. So the split was 42% Black, 45% white, 10% Hispanic, 5% women. So let's go forward to 2008. The reason this is important is because 2008 is the highest rate of incarceration that the United States has ever experienced. We had a national population of 304 million people, and the incarceration rate was 755 per 100,000 people. So out of every 100,000 people, 755,000 were in jail. That's a trip, right? So we're looking at a total number of 2,300,000 Americans who are behind bars. That's the highest in U.S. history. And this included 900,000 Black men, all right? And it included 1 million white men and 300,000 Hispanic men and 150,000 women. Now, I want you to understand something. I want to dispel a myth right quick, okay? I want you to understand something. You know how they always say all the black men are locked up. Now, I want you to understand something. If 900,000 black men are locked up and 13% of the population is black people in general, so we're looking at about a little over 35, maybe 35 million black people. If 900,000 are locked up, that means there's probably, you got another 16, 17 million black men out there. So the truth is, we try to make a big deal about the incarceration rate, but the truth is there's always been black men around. Now, what happened was tragic, but I want to begin to put this in perspective. Nevertheless, at this moment, at that time, 1 in 9 black men aged 20 to 34 were incarcerated. That's a very large number. Now, after 2008, that things began to drop. It began to go downward. So by the time you get to 2020, the prison population had declined to 1.67 million, with black men having only about 600,000 men in jail. White men, on the other hand, their numbers remained the same at 850,000. Hispanic men, 200,000, and women, 100,000. So now by the time you get to 2021, the U.S. population is 332 million, and the prison population, it rose slightly to 1.7 million, but black men, our rate of incarceration was 625,000. So there's only about 625,000 black men in prison right now. And there are 900,000 white men. So the population of white men in prison far exceeds that of black men. So when we start talking about incarceration and prison life, you got to look at it in perspective. Now, on the other hand, there are 220,000 Hispanic men and 110,000 black men, white women in general. But the bottom line is the incarceration rate for black men has gone down tremendously. Shout out to the brothers. Now, the thing we have to ask ourselves is, why did the incarceration rate explode after the 1970s? And, the thing is, we have to look at the fact that from 1972 to 2008, we had what was called the war on drugs. We had these mandatory sentences in the 1970s, especially under the 1980s, what we used to call the war on drugs. Somebody typed "just say no" in the chat room. They had harsher sentencing laws and mandatory minimums, and they had these three strikes policies that were enacted. And these laws dramatically increased the length of sentences, particularly for nonviolent drug offenses. If you had a felony, you had 2 felonies, and you went out and got another one, it could be something as stupid as stealing somebody's bike. Now they're giving you life. That's the 3 strikes rule. Okay. And politicians from both parties embraced this tough on crime platform. And this created a political climate where longer sentences and broader criminal codes were rewarded at the ballot box. And states built prisons at a rapid pace. They enabled higher incarceration by doing so. And so by the 1990s, nearly every state had massively expanded its prison infrastructure. You had stop and frisk practices, which disproportionately targeted black men, especially black and Latino men, and it increased the arrests. Because as the Bible says, seek and you shall find. If there's police contact, they're looking to do an arrest, and oftentimes they will. The other thing is they had a lot more stricter rules as related to parole and probation, and it reduced the discretion of parole boards meant to send people back into the streets. And instead, they just kept them in there. And the result was not just more people being locked up, but black men in particular being locked up at historical unprecedented rates, leading to generational consequences. Okay. So, today, again, as I said earlier, the incarceration has declined somewhat, but in general, but it's declined significantly for black men. Now, in 2008 is when it began to fall off. And the United States did. And I'm explaining this because even though we all feel that crime is outrageous and things are bad, we have less people in prison now than when things were really bad. Okay, so I have to begin to put this in context so you can understand. So let's go on to 2008, which is, almost 20 years ago now, which is shocking to me. In the United States, we had the highest incarceration rate, and black men bore the brunt of it. And at the time, nearly 1 in 3 black men faced the likelihood of imprisonment during their lifetime. And the incarceration rate peaked at staggering levels. In practical terms, in 2008, roughly 3.4% of all black men in the U.S. were incarcerated. Okay, so almost 3.5 black men were in jail. All right, and that means we're talking about roughly 600,000 to 650,000 black men behind bars nationwide, with an imprisonment rate of 3,200 to 3,400 per 100,000 black men. Again, we talk about 600 to 650,000 black men, but since that peak, the numbers have shifted dramatically, according to the Sentencing Project and the subsequent demographic studies that discuss the incarceration rate of black men, and it's dropped by nearly 50%. So by 2021, the rate had fallen to about 1,800 per 100,000, and the decline continues to 2025. As for population context, because it's important so you understand, we have an increasing population, but a decreasing prison population. So that says a lot. We understand that if we look at the census data, all right, there's approximately 37.5 million non-Hispanic black Americans. Okay, so we just talking about black Americans. We're not talking about other people. All right, 11.6% of the total population is what we are, black Americans. All right, if the population is split roughly equal between the genders, that would mean 18.75, almost 19 million black men in 2021. And so if we talk about who's incarcerated, that means there's only about 338,000, or almost, we'll just say 339,000 black men in prison in 2021. Keep in mind, it was as high as 800,000, 900,000 back in 2008. And now that number is dropped by 2/3, okay? Which is only about 1.8% of black men in the US. So there's really only about 1.8 out of every 100 black men, there's only about 1.5, we'll just say 2 black men in prison. So that's a significant change. And yes, we still have challenges, right? And we're still overrepresented in prison, right? But the trajectory is clear. There are fewer black men being locked away than at any time in the last generation. And at the same time, higher education has witnessed a steady rise in black male enrollment. Current estimates suggest that in 2025, you have 675,000 black men enrolled in college nationwide. That includes HBCUs, which is about anywhere from 45 to 57,000. You have 270,000 in community college, and you have about 355,000 black men enrolled in predominantly white institutions. And the numbers tell a powerful story. Today, there are more black men in college than are in prison by a margin of over 150,000. And that fact alone marks a historic reversal from the narrative of the early 2000s, when prison often seemed to swallow more young black men than the classroom did. And these developments suggest that the so-called anti-education or street-first culture, okay, that dominated conversations about young black men and our masculinity back in the 1990s and the 2000s is giving way to something different, okay? Thug life has given way to education life, okay? And again, while the structural inequities, they remain, there's growing evidence of a cultural and generational shift. Education is being embraced. Opportunity is being pursued, and incarceration, though it is still an urgent problem, is less of a default outcome than it was a decade and a half ago. In other words, family, The progress of Black men since 2008 cannot be reduced to statistics alone. The data reflects a broader cultural transition in which pathways to higher education are increasingly chosen over paths to prison. And this is not only a testament to our resilience, but it's and our brothers' resilience. It's also a signal that the culture of thuggery and anti-education, at least in its most dominant form, is being challenged and changed. And I'm not even talking about the young brothers who go out of high school, get out of high school and get in trades. I haven't even dealt with that. Okay, because those brothers do well for themselves. Shout out to all the plumbers and the truck drivers and the electricians and the carpenters and the brothers who are on the road right now, you know, making sure America keeps going. And shout out to all the military service personnel also. Now, it's important for me to help you explain what caused this drop in the crime rate amongst Black people, okay? And what I'm going to suggest to you is a few terms: poverty and crime, incarceration, and lack of education are all related. So let's start off with poverty, and let's start off with something called the Second Great Migration. In 1959, the official poverty rate for Black Americans stood at 55.1%. What that means is there were more Black people living below the poverty line, that is below middle class, below poverty, than above it. So the vast majority of Black Americans were broke and poor. At that time, most Black families were only a generation or two removed from slavery. Many of our ancestors who fresh came up, look, they did pick cotton themselves. You see? Life revolved around the rural South, where the Jim Crow segregation dictated every aspect of existence. Opportunities for Black people were brutally limited. Teacher, preacher, undertaker. But most of us, and those were considered upper echelon jobs, but the vast majority of us worked as farm laborers or sharecroppers or maids, which they call domestics. And we earned poverty wages under conditions designed to keep us dependent. Educational access was scarce and deliberately underfunded, okay? And segregated schools in the South especially received a tiny fraction of the resources that the white schools received. Even for those of us who managed to get an education, you had to deal with systematic discrimination and violence blocked economic mobility. And against that backdrop, the second migration unfolded. So what that is, and I want to explain this to you all, that between the 1940s and the 1970s, more than 5 million Black people left the South in that 30-year time period, okay? And this built on the first Great Migration, which took place between 1910 and the 1940s. Families literally uprooted. They left Mississippi, they left Arkansas, they left Georgia, they left Pensacola, Florida, and the Panhandle. They left Texas, Arkansas, North Carolina. You all have, you know what I'm talking about. You have relatives. They left North Carolina, South Carolina, and they moved north. They moved to New York, they moved to Chicago, they moved to Oakland, they moved to Los Angeles, they moved to Detroit, seeking something that had been denied us for centuries. That is opportunity, number one, and safety. The reasons were both, I should say, a push and pull factor. Okay, they were Jim Crow pushed us away. It drove Black people out of the South. The oppression we suffered from Jim Crow. Segregation laws stripped Black people of political rights, civil rights, and human dignity. Everyday life meant second-class citizenship. And here's the cold part. It was enforced by the courts and often by terror. You had to deal with racial violence, the lynching and the white supremacist intimidation. They were still very much realities sewn into the cultural fabric of the rural South in many of the communities. And leaving the South was as much about survival as it was about opportunity. The other thing is The decline of sharecropping and the mechanization of agricultural work left many black workers with no land and no work and no future. The other thing is you had these educational barriers. You had poor, segregated schools who had been left for generations unprepared and without options. The other thing is, so you had that pushing you out of the South. And you also had things pulling us, factors that pull us or drew us to these other places. Industrial jobs popped up because of World War II, and the post-war economic boom created labor demands in factories like steel mills, shipyards, and auto plants, and railroads in places like Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Los Angeles, and Oakland. Many of you all know that's how Granddaddy bought that house that your grandma lived in. That's how back then, a good job like that could help you support a family. And the other thing is those jobs paid more than the agricultural work that the brothers had did in the South, and it provided at least the possibility of upward mobility. The other thing is northern and western cities like Los Angeles and Detroit and Chicago offered comparatively better schools, and black families hoped that education would open doors for children that were closed to them in the South, and it did. In many northern cities, black migrants could vote, they could organize and eventually build political power, and it was something that was impossible to do down South. The other thing is, as the migration continued, family members and friends who had moved there earlier, because my family, some of them had moved from Mississippi to Chicago, well, really a little town right outside of Chicago called Kewanee, Illinois. They came and hooked up with their family members. You see, I had another uncle. His name was Carl. He moved from Mississippi, and at some point, he moved my grandmother and my mother and my youngest uncle, who would be her baby brother, out to Los Angeles. You see, so by 1959, you had millions that already left, but most black folks were still down South. They were undereducated, they were economically trapped, they were socially excluded. Poverty remained widespread because the structures of racial oppression and landlessness and segregation and unequal education had blocked access to jobs, okay? Now, the second migration, that fundamentally reshaped Black America. It transformed cities across the United States, giving rise to a new black middle class. Cultural movements like Motown in Detroit and jazz in Chicago and the political coalitions that it created. And at the same time, it exposed new challenges. You had to deal with overcrowding housing and urban poverty and racial tensions in northern cities and clashes with entrenched white ethnic communities. Shout out to Penny Ford. And still, for millions of Black families, migration was the only path to break free from the plantation economy and Jim Crow and the grinding poverty of the rural South. Now, here's the thing. In the 1960s, what began to change the picture dramatically under Lyndon B. Johnson was what was called the Great Society and the War on Poverty initiatives. Now, I want you to listen to this, okay? You had these sweeping federal programs that were established: Head Start, Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, which is now called SNAP. You had housing assistance, you had civil rights enforcement. Statistically, these programs were used mostly by white Americans, okay? Simply because the country's demographic reality in the 1960s was it was overwhelmingly Black and white. Black people were only about 9% of the population at that time. There weren't a whole lot of immigrants because they just weren't here. So we talk about over 90% white, okay, or nearly not 80, actually 85% of the population was white. And even though poverty rates were higher among Black Americans, there were more white people who were impoverished. And so the sheer numbers meant that the vast majority of the beneficiaries were white. And that is what it is now. And that doesn't mean Black Americans were excluded from the benefits. Never, on the contrary, these programs had a profound effect on the Black community because they directly attacked the conditions that had kept millions trapped in poverty. No food, no place to live, okay? No access to healthcare. And so by expanding these programs, healthcare access, and investing in early education and enforcing civil rights laws in schools and workplaces, these initiatives helped cut the Black poverty rate almost in half from 55% in 1959 to 27% by 1968. Okay. And it's important to note that the timing, and this was before the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act. Again, before that, this was predominantly a white and Black country. And this is where we made, in my opinion, the majority of our progress, because Black people were the focus, and the original sin of this country was something that America was focused on correcting. But see, once that 1965 Immigration Act was passed, that's when you begin to have these large number of immigrants from Latin America and Asia and Africa and the Caribbean coming to this country. In the early 1960s, America was still, again, like I said, it was a Black and white country. And these programs were designed to benefit the citizens, us, who had already been living and working and paying into the system for generations. The intent was not to create a permanent dependency, but to provide a temporary safety net, a help up, not a handout. So the struggling Black and white families and those other minority families who were struggling, who had been here, could stabilize, get on their feet, and pursue better opportunities. Now, over the decades, progress continued. And so by 2019, just before the pandemic, the Black poverty rate had fell to 18.8%. So it went from over 50% to 18.8% in 2022, and it reached a record low of 17.1% in 2022. And today, despite economic pressures from inflation and inequality, it remains at about 17 to 19%. And that's far different from what we were dealing with in 1959. Now, again, the poverty rate in 1959, I want to run this back to you because I want y'all to understand. In 1959, the poverty rate amongst Black people was 55.1%. In other words, the vast majority of us were broke, desperate, and living poor, okay? In 1960, it wasn't that much of a change. It went down by 1% to 55%. 1968, big jump, 27%. By the time we get to 2019, it goes from 27% to 18.8%. 2022 is 17.1%. Okay, and now, it's about the same. All right. Now, the decline, and here's where I want you guys to listen. You're going to learn something. I know it's boring, okay, but this is important. This decline in poverty correlates strongly with the drop in crime and incarceration. In other words, the more money we have, the less YNs we have. You understand what I'm saying? The more money we have as a group of people, the less crime we have in the community. See, violent crime, which surged in the 1970s and the 1980s, it peaked in the early 1990s. Since then, it's fallen by more than 50% nationally. And at the same time, the incarceration rates, which ballooned under the war on drugs and the tough on crime policies, which reached their zenith in 2008. Okay, that year, the U.S. held, as I said, 2.3 million, 2,300,000 people in jail, including 900,000 Black men. And that went from 1.9, 1 out of 9 Black men between 20 and 30 to what it is right now. Okay? All right? So here's the thing. One of the most striking things we need to understand is that in 1959, most Black Americans had little formal education beyond the basics, and college was almost unattainable for most people. Today, the story is different. Now, by 2025, you have almost 700,000 Black men enrolled in college nationwide. Okay? This is what we're dealing with. And so for the first time in U.S. history, there's more black men in college than in prison by a margin well over 150,000. And this connection is clear. As poverty fell and educational attainment rose, crime and incarceration has begun to decline. And the conditions that once fed the cycles of desperation and crime and imprisonment, rooted in poverty and lack of opportunity and structural racism, are steadily giving way to pathways defined by education, work, and community stability. This does not mean the struggle is over, okay? We still remain overrepresented in some of these prisons and jails, and we still have these economic disparities, but this ain't 1959. We're doing a lot better in 2025, and the trajectory is headed up. Now, here's the thing, all right? We still have black people who on these welfare benefits, and oftentimes, again, as I said, this was not meant to be a permanent thing, but a lot of people have done it. Now, I want you to understand something. When I give you these numbers, keep in mind that we have a lot of black people who are foreign. For instance, when I say Medicaid and health coverage, as of March 2025, the total enrollment is 71 million people on Medicaid. And that's approximately 28.2 million white. And then you have 14.8 million are black. And these figures come from applying, Pew polls from June 2025. When you talk about SNAP benefits, okay, you got 41.7 million people nationwide. And that breaks down about 17.8 million whites and 10.8 million blacks. Same thing with the SNAP program. You got 22 million people who receive these SNAP benefits. About 9.5 million are white and 5.1 million are black. Here's the thing you need to understand. I want you to understand something. When I say black, federal data categorize group of people of African descent into one single category, black, regardless of their immigration history. That means that 14.8 million black people on Medicaid enrollees, okay, the 10.8 million on SNAP benefits, they're all labeled as black, but they're not all foundational black Americans, okay? They're not all descendants of U.S. slavery. They all weren't here. Many of them just got here, okay? They didn't have to endure Jim Crow or sharecropping, all right? See, these numbers, what they call black, a lot of these African immigrants and their children, right? These are large communities of Somalis and Ethiopians and Nigerians and people from Ghana and Eritrea and the Sudan and the Congo. Okay, many of them got here in the 1980s as refugees and settlement programs. They came here after 1965 in that Immigration Act. Okay, Caribbean immigrants and descendants, they have a significant population from Jamaica and Haiti and Trinidad and Tobago and the Dominican Republic, especially in New York and Florida and the East Coast. So you have also second generation immigrants, US born children of African and Caribbean parents who also counted as black in the census and the program statistics, even though their family history is very different from foundational black American. And here's the thing, this distinction matters when we look at the absolute numbers of black program usage. A portion of the total reflects recent immigrants and their descendants who arrived to this country. And these groups face their own economic challenges, but they were not the original intended beneficiaries of anti anti-poverty initiatives of the 1960s, which was designed to address entrenched inequality for foundational Black Americans. I know I've gone off on a tangent, but I want to explain to you because I need y'all to understand. When we talk about 14.8 million Black people on Medicaid, 12 million of those are foundational Black American, and about 3 million are immigrants. Okay, when we talk about who's receiving SNAP benefits, there's about 11 million Black people, or 10.8 million. About 9 million are foundational Black American, and about 2 million are immigrants, okay? So keep that in mind when we start talking about poverty. Now, I say all that to say this. Amongst foundational Black Americans, what we see happening is a cultural shift. Now, I'm going to cite somebody, and I want you to all to write this down. There's a gentleman, a theorist, economist, a social theorist. His name is Thomas Sowell. And in his work, Black Rednecks and White Liberals, a book that came out in 2005, he argued that many of the dysfunctional behaviors historically associated with segments of Black America, the anti-intellectualism, the glorification of violence, the disdain for stable family structures, and short-term gratification, they were not indigenous cultural traits to Black people. Rather, there's a legacy of the redneck subculture transplanted from the British borderlands, which is the countryside, to the American South. Remember, Great Britain got rid of the UK, what we call the UK, got rid of all its poor, undesirable people and sent them over here to America, okay? So according to Sowell, Thomas Sowell, these cultural patterns persisted long after slavery, and they shaped the outlook and the behavior of both the Southern whites and the foundational Black Americans who were in the South. And they were reinforced through cycles of poverty and segregation and cultural romanticization of popular media. In other words, you ain't Black, you ain't acting Black. If you're not ghetto and ratchet or whatever, you're not Black. And then they reinforce that through the music and the TV and the movies. Okay, so over the last 2 decades, I want y'all to hear me because I know you don't understand. I'm gonna land this plane. I promise you all are learning something. You ain't figured it out yet, but you're gonna figure it out. Over the last 20 years, there's growing evidence that this cultural framework has begun to lose its normative appeal, particularly amongst young folk. Okay? What once carried connotations of authenticity and toughness and cultural capital is increasingly framed as outdated, counterproductive, and even socially stigmatized. Indicators of this shift can be found in declining crime rates since the 1990s, falling incarceration rates for Black men since 2008, and the steady rise of college enrollment amongst Black men. Together, these trends suggest not merely changes in policy, but also deeper cultural realignments in which the status once attached to antisocial behavior is now eroding. In this regard, and let me lay this down for you all to eat it, the YNs are the new lames. Now, let me put that in context. There was a while when we used to call educated Black men educated lames. This is very recently, okay? But at this particular juncture, the YNs are the new lames, okay? And of course, you all know what the YN is. That's the young N word, that archetype, reckless, brash, hyper street persona, that mentality that dominated the early hip hop in the inner city identity in the 1990s and the 2000s. Being a YN, it once carried social clout. It was tied to toughness and authenticity and respect on a block they didn't even own. By contrast, a lame was someone who was respected, who wasn't respected and lacked credibility or didn't fit into the street hierarchy. But recent discourse points to a reversal of these valuations. The same YN behavior, reckless crime, hostility to learning, glorification of dysfunction, is increasingly being viewed as lame in itself. Young people online and offline are ridiculing it, suggesting that living irresponsibly and chasing clout through violence or rejecting stability no longer earns admiration, but instead marks someone as behind the times. Viewed through Sowell's analytical lens, this transformation represents, I would say, a potential cultural inflection point. The decline of the Black redneck cultural residue and the emergence of a generational reevaluation of norms is what we see happening. Street first lifestyles are no longer universally admired, and the generational consensus is shifting towards valuing education, entrepreneurship, and stability. What was once seen as real or authentic is now being mocked as lame. So, across many cultural indicators since the 1990s, Black America is showing a sustained move towards mainstream norms described by Thomas Sowell as acculturation. One of the clearest shifts is the teen birth rate. Look at the teen birth rate and how it's fallen in successive lows for Black teenagers. Specifically, if you look at it, roughly 3/4 between 2000 and 2022. They literally went from 120,000 to 29,000. And that rate, that's a 74% drop off. And this is according to the National Vital Statistics reports. The CDC confirms that 78% of the 78% decline in the teen birth rate since 1991. Okay? Now, this is across racial lines, but bottom line, it affects us tremendously. What about educational attainment? That's risen in tandem. There's an increase. Okay, 20 Black men between the ages of 25 to 29, and along with Black women, completing high school and earning associates and bachelor's degrees. All right, since 2010, with Black women enrolling and completing at especially high rates, but in the 2010s and the 2020s. Okay, I just want you to think about that. See, these human capital gains are reflected in adult economic status also. Widely cited analysis of census data reports that the majority of Black men, that is 57%, are in the middle class or higher by adulthood today. That's up from 38% in the 1960s. Brothers, nearly 2/3 of you reach the middle class by the time you hit middle age. What does that say? And it's not just middle class, it's also higher. Okay? I'm not saying things are perfect. Of course, there's going to be gaps in mobility and wealth. But the fact that we are on this upward trajectory says a lot. It says a tremendous amount. It shows that education, entrepreneurship, and cultural production sends us upward. During the Great Migration era, and I spoke about this earlier, you had these enclaves of Black success, whether we're talking about Harlem and Chicago, or we're talking about Chicago's Bronzeville, Black metropolis. These places fostered a Black middle and professional class. They had dense business ecosystems and the nationally influential art scenes, Harlem's Renaissance. Okay, it relied on the Black middle class and the professional networks. Places like Bronzeville hosted banks and newspapers and medical doctors and legal offices with lawyers. They had entertainment venues serving a city within a city. Places like Detroit's Paradise Valley and Black Bottom. That place had over 300 plus Black-owned businesses, and this is the mid-century, mid-20th century. Okay? Now, when we take a look at the sharp declines in teen births, especially amongst Black girls, and the rise in post-secondary attainment amongst Black women and men, and the fact that the majority of Black men reach the middle class by middle age, the cultural valence has shifted. We have to accept that. These behaviors that were once glorified in the late 20th century, these street tropes, they carry less status as communities prioritize education and steady employment and entrepreneurship and family stability. Okay? Historically, when black communities embrace these norms, whether we're talking about Harlem, Bronzeville, Paradise Valley, back in the day, they produce outsized success, and that's what you see happening. And this is despite these structural barriers. And the current data suggests that we're returning to that trajectory. So shout out to you, black folks. So in this context, in the lingering celebration of thug life and gangster life, it's not merely unfashionable, it's counter status. So YNs, these YNs are now read less as heroes and more as impediments to the widely shared project of upward mobility and community safety. So what does this mean? What it means is, in regards to the decline of thug culture, the cultural prestige once attached to ghetto and thug life is increasingly being exposed as illusionary and unsustainable and destructive. High-profile legal cases and the rise of social media and shifting generational aspirations are pulling back the curtain on what was once portrayed as a glamorous lifestyle. Today, you have entire Instagram pages, and I got one pulled up for you. I want you to take a look at it. You got entire Instagram pages that show you just how unglamorous that life is. Look at this. Switch go blurred. Look at this foolishness they got going on, man. All these people on here getting unalived and shot at. That's not what these youngsters want. And it's not just Instagram. You also have TikTok and all these other places, all these other social media sites where they have these uncut videos of shootings and robberies and murders, and they just appear with alarming frequency. Hit the #1 button if you can hear me, because y'all a little stale in the chat room. Hit the #1 button. But the bottom line is, instead of mystifying gang culture, these platforms show its daily toll. Young men cut down in the prime of their life, families grieving in real time, a cycle of violence repeating itself with no honor, no wealth, and no future. They don't have dental plans. YNs don't have dental plans. Okay, family? YNs don't have dental plans. You're just going to be out here toothless. Okay? See, what earlier generations could mythologize as dangerous but heroic is now plainly visible to millions of viewers as chaotic, terrifying, and profoundly unglamorous. And the constant stream of unfiltered imagery reinforces what sociologists like Elijah Anderson have long argued, that the so-called code of the street leads not to respect and status, but to vulnerability and premature death. See, that Young Thug trial, somebody type Panda in the chat room, that Young Thug trial in Atlanta, it provides a striking example. A rapper whose brand was built on the aura of gang affiliation and street authenticity, Young Thug. By the way, he also wore dresses. He faced that lengthy proceedings under those racketeering charges. And what emerged in court was not an image of brotherhood or unbreakable loyalty, but instead widespread betrayal by his co-defendants, testifying against one another, copping pleas, okay, in violation of whatever was the code of the street. And it all collapsed under legal pressure. And again, this echoes what Elijah Anderson also argued in his book, Code of the Street, in 1999, that the so-called street code is less a system of honor than a fragile adaptation to insecurity, and one that collapses under institutional pressure. And the spectacle of betrayal in the young thug trial revealed what insiders have long all along. There's no real solidarity in criminal networks, only self-preservation. And the trial became a symbol of what we know to be true. There is no, it's stated otherwise, there's no honor amongst thieves. And many of you all who've lived that street life, who've had your homeboy snitch on you or cop a plea to get a better deal, he getting out and you staying in, you know that's to be true too. You see? And the youngsters are seeing that. Okay? They're seeing it exactly for what it is. And they don't want any part of that. And I salute the young men out there. Okay? That YN lifestyle is being exposed for what it is. Speaking of which, exposed. At the same time that you have the rise of social media, right? They're stripped away the street life in the free world. It's also stripped away the mystique prison once held. See, in previous generations, incarceration was often framed as a rite of passage or a mark of credibility in the streets, right? I'm telling the truth. Sounds stupid now, but that's what it was. Going to prison was like becoming a man. But see, today, you have all these uncensored depictions of prison life circulating around TikTok and YouTube, and that it reveals the brutal realities. Somebody ever heard the phrase "gay for the state"? Huh? That phrase has entered the public lexicon and entered the public discourse. It highlights how vulnerable young men are to coercion of opportunistic sexual activities behind the bars. The notion of prison as a gladiatorial arena of toughness is being replaced with an understanding of it as a degrading environment where your personal autonomy can be stripped away, for lack of a better word. For young men who see these realities, the conclusion is unavoidable. There's nothing glamorous about incarceration. This aligns with the criminological research showing that prisonization or that process strips away folks' autonomy and corrodes their social capital. This is a book written by Donald Kleemer called The Prison Community back in the 1940s. And there was another book by Todd Clear in 2007 called Imprisoning Communities. Nevertheless, this shift dovetails with changing generational aspirations. Contemporary young Black men increasingly measure success not by survival in the streets or hierarchies, but by mobility and travel and entrepreneurship. And the desire is to own their own business and purchase homes and drive high-end cars and explore global opportunities, whether we're talking about Miami or Dubai, okay, whether we're talking about Cartagena or Rio or London or Dublin. You got the whole growth of the passport bro phenomenon is one example of this outward-looking orientation. But see, a felony conviction oftentimes stops men from obtaining passports or visa, and it instantly forecloses on these opportunities. And this realization reframes thug life not as a gateway to manhood, but as a permanent barrier to full participation in modern globalized life. See, the DOJ and the Pew data reinforce this point. And since 2008, the incarceration rate of Black men has dropped by nearly 50%. And the youth arrest rates for violent crime are at their lowest in decades. You see? See, this generation is now coming of age and it sees clearly that crime forecloses opportunity rather than conferring status. And the other thing is, there was a time when people wanted to be involved in that thug life because, they wanted to be celebrities. But social media has diminished celebrity status itself. See, again, in early eras, the allure of gang life was partly a promise. Everybody wanted to be a gangster rapper because they wanted to be visible on music videos, and they wanted to have a street reputation. They wanted a chance to be recognized. But today, everybody's a superstar through these social media platforms. Social validation can now be achieved through creative work, lifestyle branding, and entrepreneurship without recourse to violence or crime. And in this cultural environment, glorifying thug life is no longer necessary or even attractive for young folk. You understand? So you take all this together, and these shifts reveal that the YNs, the young men who once embodied and promoted the thug archetype are increasingly viewed with skepticism and disdain, not admiration. And it is a beautiful thing. What once carried symbolic capital is now coded as self-destructive, short-sighted, and socially marginal. The glamour has been replaced by stigma. And for many in the rising generation, the future lies not in somebody's prison yard or on somebody's gang set, but in passports and degrees and entrepreneurship and upward mobility. Even within hip hop itself, voices from old school cats like Too Short. Too Short said this recently. He said, man, the squares live longer and the squares have more fun. And that reflects his own career and patterns. You guys know Too Short. Too Short, baby, coming. Remember him? He witnessed the streets. He noted that the young men who chased the fast money and notoriety, they shine briefly after high school, but their trajectory, it rarely is sustained. And so by the time they get to middle age, the so-called nerds or the squares, once dismissed as lames, are the ones who hold stable jobs and own homes and have dental and health insurance. And they enjoy the fruits of their long-term planning. Meanwhile, the former cool kids are left in cycles of poverty, borrowing money, living without health care, and still engaging in the same survival hustles that once seemed glamorous. They're homeless now because, see, they regentrified the hood, so they don't even have anywhere to go. Think about that. And so the answer increasingly, family, the answer increasingly is what? Is that the true lame is not the studious, law-abiding man, but the one trapped in arrested development, unable to build stability or dignity or adulthood. In other words, as Too Short put it, the squares win in the end. I think I can pull this up. Let me see if I can pull this up for you all. Let me see if I can pull it up for you all to check out. Let me know if you can hear this.
But I swear that is like something that eats away at me daily is I wish that there was something that we could do that's loud enough to just shock the homies and go, bruh, I'm telling you right now, man, if it's a race, we both 20 years old. That is like something that eats away at me daily is I wish that there was something that we could do that's loud enough to just shock the homies and go, bruh, I'm telling you right now, man, if it's a race, we both 20 years old and you hard on the boulevard in the streets, I promise you that little nerd nigga is going to be past you by the time he's 40, 45. He's going to be so far past you, you're never going to catch him. And he's going the square ass executive route. He's really going to live a better life than you. And you winning right now with the thugging and the pull in the streets, but it's not going to last long. So I don't know how to get that across, man. But I swear that is like something that eats away at me daily is I wish that there was something that I could.
Yeah, it's too late, right? So again, that's Too Short. You guys remember Too Short back in the day. I wouldn't categorize him as a gangster rapper, but basically what he's saying is the same thing. This generational wisdom, it echoes again what the brother Elijah Anderson saying, one of our scholars, who noted that adherence to the so-called street code may yield short-term respect, but it leads to long-term marginalization. All right. In contrast, people who embrace education and steady work and civic responsibility secure enduring rewards of middle-class life. Okay. So that's the other thing. Now, family, you know, he's not the only one. Okay. He's not the only one that says that. Okay. When we look at people like Snoop Dogg, and you guys know Snoop Dogg was notorious. Snoop Dogg was the gangster back in the day, right? They call Snoop Dogg as a grandpa. He had 7 grandchildren. This man is now talking openly about taking his children to see Disney movies. Okay. In fact, he recently got in some trouble with the LGBT community because he was saying, I don't want to go see these Disney movies, and you got Buzz Lightyear, his grandson, asking them how can 2 women have a child in the movie, because that's part of the script. You understand? But clearly the man is in grandpa mode, not gangbang mode, and his children have also pursued mainstream paths. His son Cordell enrolled in UCLA, continuing there after football. Ice-T, remember Ice-T from back in the day? He had a song called Cop Killer back in the day, and now he's playing a cop on Law and Order, right? In his 27th season. Okay, he's far from his outlaw beginnings. You understand me? Ice Cube, O'Shea Jackson, formerly part of NWA. His son studies at USC and works in Hollywood. Jay-Z, you know, professed drug dealer, you know, billionaire. Same thing with Dr. Dre, billionaire. You know, 50 Cent, tough guy from Jamaica, Queens, television mogul. Nas, another tough guy. All these gangster rappers, right? This man is a venture capitalist. Got people like Rick Ross and Gucci Man. These people on Wingstops. This is what they're doing. In short, the most visible gangster rappers have aged into roles indistinguishable from middle and upper middle class professionals, parents, investors, producers, entrepreneurs, and executives. The status is no longer tied to proximity to violence, but to the stability of ownership. And if we extrapolate away from that, okay? If we extrapolate from what we see happening, and I'm gonna say this, and this is gonna be a pungent point, and it's meant to be, because I want you all to truly understand how, you know, a whole generation of young people were duped, right? If you if you look at that, right, it just shows you just how fraudulent that whole perceived gangster persona was in the first place. I mean, think about it. They preach that gangster life, urging young men my age to ride or die and crash out. And now they're entrenched in boardrooms and managing media empires and providing elite opportunities to their families. Now, can you imagine if people like Tupac Shakur and Christopher Biggie, what they call Biggie Smalls or Christopher Wallace, they'd have become real estate agents and franchise moguls, just like their contemporaries. They'd be in their 40s and 50s by now, as opposed to somewhere in the graveyard, rotting. Okay? I want you to think about that. Okay? So here we are in 2025, and the lesson is unavoidable. The gangster life, that YN life, is never a blueprint for adulthood. Its loudest advocates have already plotted their escape into business, franchising, Hollywood, and Silicon Valley. The only people left holding the bag were the young men who believed the lyrics. Literally. They literally did drive-by shootings to these people's music. And the fact that so many of these artists now live the lives of multimillionaire executive moguls and global celebrity, it proves that thug life was not only self-destructive, but it was exploitative all along. Here's the thing, and I'm gonna wrap this thing up. I'm not gonna have y'all here all night, but we're gonna learn something. I know y'all are learning something. But the thing is, I think it's fair to say that Black America has had enough of this so-called N-word culture. We've had enough of the YNs and we've had enough of the thugs that they represent. We don't admire them. We don't look up to them. We despise the destruction they bring into our neighborhoods. They are not our heroes. They're not tough guys. They are damn sure not leaders. They are parasites. They are a cancer eating away at the progress of our people. Every damn drug dealer, every stick-up kid, every so-called gangster, every YN is a stain on the reputation of millions of law-abiding Black men and Black women who go to work every day, who raise families, and who build legacies. The statistics speak for themselves. Yes, crime overall has declined nationally. The concentration of violent crime in predominantly Black neighborhoods remains far too high, though. And it's largely due to a small group of repeat offenders. The majority of Black Americans are not criminals. Yet we carry the burden of the perception created by those who are. See, for every hardworking father trying to raise his children, there's a thug dragging the community backwards, confirming stereotypes and undoing decades of struggle. Every time we try to have a conversation, they always say, well, 13% of the population does 80% of the murders. That's what they say. And that just brings all of us in. And the truth is, it's a tiny percent of these no good scoundrels that are doing it. And that's why Black Americans, whether they voted for Donald Trump or not, are welcome. We welcome this hard line on crime, and we're ready to get rid of it. If it means bringing the National Guard to sweep out violent gangs, or even removing illegal immigrants who are committing crimes, who pose as foundational Black Americans while flooding our neighborhoods with dope, then so be it. Because enough is enough. Make no mistake, this is not about race, it's about culture. The culture of senseless violence, drug dealing, and glorified criminality is a blight upon us. And the Black community rejects that outright. Man, these so-called YNs, they're no longer admired. They're hated. We hate them. And rightly so. They're no longer viewed as tough. They're seen as pathetic. Their behavior does not inspire fear or respect. It inspires disgust. We don't like them. Law-abiding Black Americans want them locked up off the streets and out of our neighborhoods. The thing is, we're too disciplined and too law-abiding to take justice in our own hands. But we are glad that finally there are leaders willing to take decisive action to protect the Black community from those who would prey upon it. The whole idea of Black fatigue, which is the exhaustion of, it started off as the exhaustion of living with racism's daily grind, and it originates in a work by a consultant and an author, a woman named Mary Frances Winters. She describes it as the cumulative wear of microaggressions and inequality and exposure to racial violence in the news and life, okay? But in the online discourse, you know now, right now, there's a second usage. People, including mostly non-Black people, they claim they're tired of the antisocial behavior in the African or the Black American street culture, okay? But here's the cold part about it. A lot of Black people replied that they were truly fatigued by its systematic machinery that incubated the behavior in the first place. Policies that segregated neighborhoods and disinvested schools and fractured families through incarceration and then blame black folks for the fallout. Look here, man. Research has repeatedly linked mass incarceration to weakened family formation and intergenerational harm. You understand me? Who did that to us? Children with incarcerated parents are 5 to 6 times more likely to be offenders, underscoring how removal of fathers destabilize the next generation. Again, crime is concentrated amongst a tiny fraction of places in the people. The law of crime and consecration. What that means is, and shout out to Penny Ford, what that means is most residents, even in high crime neighborhoods, are not driving the violence. It's a small number of hot spots and repeat offenders. And policy that targets those hot spots and those repeat violent offenders, that protects everyone. So look at the other thing. Youth crime fell dramatically over the past 3 decades. We had a small uptick in 2020 after the pandemic. But what that does is it undermines the notion that our kids are worse than ever. Things are improving. Again, prison rate has fallen, but the disparities remain. The other thing is the environment. It's hard to raise a family in an environment full of YNs. Think about that. Yeah, the internet has demystified street life. And these social platforms routinely surface and you see these raw videos. There's no more glamour in it. We don't look up to that. We have black fatigue. It's not about systematic oppression. It's now about those who claim to represent our neighborhoods, but instead degrade them. We're tired of the thieves. We're tired of the car thieves. We're tired of the fights, and we're tired of the bouts in Walmart. And when I say YNs, I'm talking male and female. And we tired of these so-called YNs who want to silence our voices and these YN supporters. When we say black fatigue, we mean it. And not just weariness from racism, but exhaustion with the culture it spawned that continues to harm our community. Shout out to Black Sand. And given that, it's no surprise that we had all those what we call man on the street videos and those YouTube videos where you had all those black people in DC and Chicago saying, yeah, bring them in, bring in the National Guard in Baltimore. They don't see this as political. It's about reclaiming safety and dignity. Let me give you some polls. There was a CBS poll that found that 81% of Americans across party lines, that's Republican and Democrat and independent, see crime in large cities as a major problem. And 53% approve Trump's tough on crime response, even if they don't live in those doggone cities. Only 38, look, man. Look, I'm here in Houston right now. There was a survey that came out in 2024 that said that 77% of Houstonians stay home more at night to avoid crime. And 51% have moved to safer neighborhoods. And all that does is it underscores the safety issues that they say we don't have. Look, hardworking black families, look, we're not cheering racism and violence against young black men and women who are out there committing crime, but we are exhausted. And we want these criminals removed, not glorified. Okay? And whatever needs to happen, needs to happen. This overall usage of the phrase black fatigue, it originated to describe stress and systematic racism, but black communities expanded it to include the emotional exhaustion caused by internal violence. Now, I'm not letting the system off the hook, because the system created this. It created these YNs with these oppressive policies and these fragmented families and the criminalizing communities and the stigmatized aspiration. This system created it, but we still have to deal with it. But now with these cities fractured by crime and impunity and unfair policing and broken government, many Black Americans support even extreme measures like federal troops intervening, not because it's easy to concede power, but because the alternative has been unbearable for the past 30 or 40 years. That's where we stand. We're tired. But we're also determined to see our neighborhoods protected. Let me explain something to y'all, man. As a father of 3 Black boys, my greatest fear is not the police pulling my son over. It's the danger posed by these so-called YNs. I don't lie awake at night worried about traffic stops. I lie awake at night thinking about the possibility that some reckless young man with nothing to lose, who doesn't value his own life, decides to rob or kill my son simply because he envies what they have or because his own life feels empty. And the statistics bear out this fear. Homicide is the leading cause of death for young Black men between the ages of 15 and 34. Not disease, not car accidents, not drug overdose, not police encounters, homicides. And according to the CDC data, young Black men are 10 to 14 times more likely to be homicide victims than their white peers. And the overwhelming majority of those deaths are caused by other young Black men. The FBI and the Bureau of Justice Statistics data consistently show that more than 85% of Black homicide victims are killed by Black offenders. This is not an abstract talking point. It's a day-to-day reality of being a Black man with a Black family, just like mine. And if we look in history, it makes the point even sharper. In the early 1990s, during the height of the crack era, homicide rates for young Black men soared to crisis levels. In 1993, the rate of homicide for Black males from the age of 18 to 24, this was my age demographic, it was 195 per 100,000. So for every 100,000 Black men, almost 200 of them was going to get unalived by another Black man. In order to put that in context, that number exceeds the casualty rate for U.S. soldiers in many of the wars that we fought overseas. And by comparison, in 2020, the homicide rate for Black men overall is still high, but it's 39 per 100,000 instead of 195. That's less than 1/4 of those 1990 peak numbers. The lesson is clear. Culture, opportunity, and enforcement matter. And when the right combination is in place, violence can come down in the Black community. See, what pains me is that you have folks, you have individuals. They don't see the love, they don't see the time, they don't see the energy, they don't see the resources that fathers like me and mothers, parents in general, pour into our children. The countless hours of guidance and sacrifice made so that they can have opportunities. The foundation laid for them to grow into strong, responsible men. My sons are my legacy. And I refuse to see that legacy destroyed by someone who treats their life like a disposable diaper. So yes, I want to see this destructive culture gone. If I must choose, I will always choose to protect my sons first. That isn't hatred. That's human nature. It's what any father would do. I love being a black man. I love my brothers and sisters, but my duty begins with my own children, and I will not apologize for putting their lives and their futures and their safety ahead of the reckless ones who chose chaos. The numbers are clear. My son's greatest danger doesn't come from police officers or systematic forces alone. It comes from the nihilism of a small group of young men, which we call YNs in our community, who believe manhood is measured in crimes that they commit. But the historical comparison shows us that just as an epidemic level violence of the 1990s was reduced, the destruction caused by these YNs and that culture can also be brought down if we commit to facing it honestly and just so we can protect the next generation. Now, I know y'all learned something, and I appreciate you all who have shown me that you learned something. Those of you all who've contributed to the super chat. And I'm going to take the opportunity to thank each and every one of you for doing that. I certainly do appreciate the time you all have spent with me. I have some more to say. Okay, but I want to take the opportunity to thank you. We got 10 super chats. I appreciate you all. It'd be great. If you learn something, I should earn something. I shouldn't have to say that over and over again, but if you learn something, I should earn something. You guys who have contributed to the super chat, thank you so much. I want to first thank Patricia. Thank you so much, Miss Patricia Hightower. And I want to thank everybody else in here. My man, Urban Eagle. We got 10 super chats. I want to thank you for the $5 super chat, Urban Eagle. Thank you, Saginaw Bay, for the $19.99. Speak on it, Blizzard King. Thank you, Techno Sage. Welcome to the membership. Road Pill. Thank you, Brother D, something small for the plate. Appreciate you. I appreciate you too. Let me see. Sup? Called my investor today and invested in Geo Group and Core Civic. He asked, if you don't mind, how did you hear about it? Don't tell him Uncle D is putting you on, man. You're going to be rich, brother. You're going to be rich, rich. Shout out to you, man. Go ahead and keep doing that, man. Get your money. Get your money. Penny Ford, some only went as far as my beloved Cincinnati, which is located right across the Ohio River from Kentucky, which is the South. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Penny. She's talking about the Great Migration and the Second Migration. Fire sign, simply thank you. Thank you too. Penny Ford, Dems tried to perpetuate the subculture by presenting Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion as the representation of our culture when it is a microcosm of our culture. Thanks, then. Thank you so much, baby. I appreciate you. Black Sand, great show. Keep up the good work. Sonia C, they can't pass the GED exam, no job. Who's renting to them? They all aren't from the hood. You're right. Find ways to win. Fitzgerald Stevens, thank you so much for the $5 super sticker. Great topic, counselor. Thank you so much. So we got 11 super chats. It would have been great to get 15. I'm saying, y'all, I know y'all a little light tonight. It's the middle of the month. Y'all had bills to pay. Nevertheless, man, I hope you all learned something. I certainly do appreciate the time you've spent with me tonight. We might get to 15 before I go. 20 will be plenty, but 15 is keen. Let's go ahead and do this. Family, I want y'all to listen to me, okay? I know I have a way of getting y'all all turned up and whatnot, and then I'm going to bring you back down to reality, and I'm going to do that right now, okay? Our instinct is right. We want to be zealous about removing the predators who terrorize our neighborhoods, okay? And we also want to be zealous about protecting the law-abiding Black families who built them up. And that instinct is righteous. But history gives us a warning, okay? When fear dictates policy, even well-intentioned leaders can handle the state. We let me say it like this. We can't give Donald Trump or any other administration a blank check, okay, to run roughshod in our communities. That's what I want you to understand. I want you to think back to 1994. I want you to think back to the 1994 crime bill. Back then, crime was real. Inner cities were under siege, and many of our leaders were desperate for relief, and they supported Bill Clinton's crime bill, authored by Joe Biden. Matter of fact, he referred to it as the Biden bill, and it went into effect in 1995. It wasn't just Bill and his wife Hillary pushing it. No, it was the Congressional Black Caucus. They gave it the stamp. Okay? I believe the man's name was Kwame, I can't say his name, Kwesi Mfume, whatever. You know, a lot of black folk changed their name to those African names. Nevertheless, he was the chair, and he rallied for the votes. And Charles Rangel, a long-time hawk on drugs, he stood behind it. Kurt Schmock, who's the first black mayor of Baltimore, he testified for it. Even dozens of our own pastors signed letters supporting it. The Gallup poll at the time said 58% of black Americans wanted it passed. We wanted to be done with them YNs back in the day, those super predators. We're tired of them super predators. Their intentions were not malicious. They wanted safety, just like we do right now. But what did we get? We got 3 strike laws. We got an expanded death penalty. We got $10 billion for prisons. We got an increased HIV rate because when they sent them brothers into the penitentiary, they were sodomized and sexualized, and they brought that back home to the black community. So we got that too. Keep that in mind now. We got hundreds and thousands of police. But the science will later show us that many of the young men swept up by those policies were not hardened criminals at all, at least not when they went in. They were kids whose brains and judgment had been damaged by a culture, who lived in an environment, housing projects, and they got caught up. But who bore the brunt? We did. Black families. The prison boom caged our fathers, our sons, our brothers, our uncles, our grandfathers. The very communities that cried out for help were the ones ground down by the machinery of mass incarceration. And decades later, even now, many of these same leaders, they don't want to take credit for it. Some of them even deny they even made a mistake. So here's the lesson today. If we call for safety, and we must do that, we have to do it with wisdom. We must demand focused enforcement. Go after the repeat violent offenders. Target the hot spots, because the law of crime and concentration proves that half of the city's violence happens on just a few small streets. See, the policy must be precise. We must tie every surge in enforcement to sunset clauses and data reporting and civilian oversight and due process safeguards, so that the same system can't quietly be turned against us. And we must insist on investments the 1994 bill shortchanged us on. There was no youth jobs. There's no mental health care, no substance abuse treatment. So we don't rebuild the same punitive machinery that we had back then with a new disguise. Here's the short of it. In 1994, you had all these black politicians like Charles Rangel and these mayors and this clergy. They stood with Clinton to save lives. And the result was mass incarceration that widened racial harm. Let's not repeat that mistake. No matter how much you like Donald Trump or how much this is appealing to you to get rid of these YNs, let us ask for safety. But let us write the policies in a way that cannot be weaponized against the very communities, us, they're meant to protect. That's the caution of 2025. See, when we talk about the 1994 crime bill, people point the finger at Bill and Hillary. They talk about Hillary calling everybody super predators that were my age at the time. Okay? But see, if they were the pot, many of our own black leaders and our own black folks in our communities, we were the kettle. It was our support that paved the way for the law's passage. And we are still paying the price. Back then, the crime was out of control. You see? You had people like Charles Rangel, and he was right up there with Nixon and Reagan as far as the crackdown. You had dozens of black pastors who signed letters supporting the bill. Again, their intentions weren't malicious, but look what it did. Look what it did to us. The bottom line is that many of our political and civic and religious leaders concluded that a tough bill was the price of safety in 1994. And the Senate and the House obliged that measure and passed that overwhelming support, which was signed into law almost almost 26 years ago today on September 13th, 1994. But what many didn't see was who would bear the cost. The law accelerated incarceration through funding streams and state incentives, even as crime began to fall. Because once you create that animal, you got to feed it. And what happened later? Hillary Clinton admitted that the bill had negative consequences and needed to be revisited. The CBC shifted, highlighting the prevention and treatment. Even Charles Rangel tried to come up with some reform. This is a black man. And so here we are in 2025, fired up to demand order in our communities. Bring in the National Guard. Some of y'all was co-signing with that. Don't be quiet now. But we don't need to repeat that same mistake. Ask for safety, yes, but demand focused enforcement, not just blanket crackdowns, not just people walking through the communities harassing folks. Demand youth jobs, demand mental health treatment and addiction care, not just more cells and more police. And above all, don't give these folks a blank check, because history proves it will be cashed on us. That's the cautionary tale for the 1994 crime bill. Now, here we are in 2025. Angry, zealous, we tired of these YNs, we got black fatigue, and we're determined to clean up our cities. We want the same thing that happened in DC to happen in Chicago, to happen in Baltimore, to happen in Philly, and everywhere else, in New Orleans. Because fear, if left unchecked, it can drive us into the arm of policies and that promise safety in the short term, but deliver devastation in the long run. We hadn't thought about that. Shout out to Dharma Warrior. We need focused enforcement. We need sunset clauses. We need data collection. We need to go after the repeat offenders. Not them harassing young men just walking down the street. We need to invest in youth employment and mental health services and addiction treatment. The very things that the 1994 crime bill failed to provide, because cages don't heal broken people, opportunities do. We don't need our black mayors and our black leaders to be opposed to this just to be opposed to it because they don't like Donald Trump. And we don't need them to blindly support it, whatever their political affiliation. What we need is something tangible out of this. Again, when we allow fear and desperation to dictate policy, we risk endorsing solutions, shout out to Michael J., that devastate our neighborhoods. But in truth, you see, in truth, as foundational Black Americans, we have to accept the fact that we're always the primary target of white supremacy in this country. And so we need to be smart. In fact, I will go so far as to say we need to be cunning. We must recognize that we are always next on the chopping block. We are always the ones in the racial hot seat. Even if at this moment Donald Trump and his administration are distracted with illegal immigration and Arabs and Latinos or Asians or midgets, tiddlywinks, whatever. Don't make the mistake. The majority of the state's attention always finds its way back to us. And that has been the story of America since its founding. And let me add this. We do not have a race problem in the Black community. We have a cultural problem. For centuries, our culture has been shaped, bent, and designed to survive the onslaught of white supremacy, racism. Everything was a struggle. Finding work, building families, protecting dignity. And too often, we took the struggle and took it out on each other. We learned violence from our oppressors. We learned violence from whips and chains and lynch mobs and slave patrols and the neglect of both political parties who left us to fend for ourselves. So yes, we have achieved great measure of success. Our poverty rate is lower than it ever has been. More of our sons are in college than in prison, and we are pushing into the middle class in greater numbers. But we are still far from where we need to be. And in this moment of progress, we cannot forget where we came from. We must recognize even these young brothers caught up in this YN culture, and it pains me to say it, they're still our blood. They're still our sons. They're still our little brothers. And they're still our ancestors' children. And just as our ancestors extended grace to us, carrying us through centuries of hardship, the sacrifices they made, we owe them some grace too. Not an excuse for their actions, but an acknowledgement that they are products of a system and a history that was not of their making. So let us be wise. Let us be cautious. Let us be fierce in protecting our families and our future. But let us also be humane in remembering that the line between who survives and who is lost is often nothing more than the grace of someone who extended it. The real cautionary tale for the 1994 crime bill is this: sometimes our leaders, even with the best intentions, can become instruments of our oppression. And in 2025, let us not make that mistake again. This is Dennis Spurling. I want to thank you all for the time in which you spent with me here today. God bless you all. And as I always say at this time, this is Uncle D, and I'm out.
Dennis Spurling.
In the city where the lights don't sleep, Uncle D got the vibe so deep. representing men strong and free. And Spurling's the king of the spree. In the streets where the rhythm flows, black men rising, that's how it goes. Uncle D got the truth to show. In his heart, that's where the fire glows. Late night tuning, light up the stream. Dennis Spurling, wisdom gleam. Voices whisper truth and insight. In his podcast, feel the light. Harmony in every word. Truth and laughter you've heard. Oh, that's all right. That's the wave of smooth delight. Dennis brings the dark to light. That's the blizzard, baby. Share the tales unfold. The stories born like morning gold. Feeling the wisdom inside me. Subscribing like time after time.
Black men, black men, black men, I want to salute you. Your incarceration rate is down. The education rate is up. We up. We went from, we are doing great for ourselves. So you should salute yourself. Shout out to all the brothers out there, whether you're a truck driver or engineer, whether you're an electrician or garbage man, a doctor, a lawyer, if you a hard-working brother, if you fresh out the penitentiary, but you on your grind and you doing it legal and you trying to make amends for yourself, man, I salute you too, brothers. God bless you. This is Uncle D, and you know, I'm out.